Alright, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Make sure to like and share if you haven't already. Try and get everyone back here. I'm gonna send the link out again. So I need to send it out to One Vicious first. So that's done. Anyway, so we've got RORMC. No, I'm not panicking. Don't worry about that. I'm just need to hang on, Pete. If you want the link, I can have you on. And Anthony, if you want to
made it.
have you on. Right. Yeah, why do these people have to be such dicks? Just,
Doing nothing with their lives.
I know, well, I need to have an open platform, but they just spoil it.
Well, see, isn't that the funnest part? They always cried. They never let us in. They never did.
And when you do, they
fucking
spoil
it. Same people.
Ryan Walsh, do you want to join? I'll have you on if you want to join. Anyone else that wants to join? I should have just done it normal to begin with, to be honest, the normal hangouts, but just kind of proves my point, really.
You'll have to play around with it later when you're just having a mellow day and figure out how you want to do server.
Yeah, because I might be able to figure out how to not share the link and what have you.
Pretty much.
Pull back, so, it's not too detrimental. New perspective. I'm doing, hang on, I think did I send Anthony one? I'll just make sure. Because you don't take any sides, do you? So, because you said that there's lies on both sides, globe and flat.
Oh yeah, I see it every day, man. It's not always on purpose. Like sometimes it's just an assumption that goes a little off, and it becomes just bad evidence. And other times it's intentional. It's seriously trying to shovel through the manure in order to find what's actually worth having. It's like I lost my wedding ring in a big old stack of manure. Can you find it? It's fucked. So yeah, every day I'm still looking. I'm actually trying to debunk myself on a couple things this week.
We got to, I think, because what science is all about is you got to be able to try and debunk yourself and not just have a bias to try and prove that you got to try and debunk it.
Yeah, I try to set aside a day every 2 weeks of what my thought process is working on that is strictly used to debunk what I currently believe. So here's hoping I do or do not find something in the next day. I always try to find those particular points, like something new to think about. Like, man, I haven't thought about that yet. How does that work in this? Can I debunk it? Does it prove anything? Keeps the brain somewhat, or maybe it keeps it somewhat sick. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Anyway, thought any of what of you might have joined, but someone's talking about telekinesis. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, if anyone wants to come on and talk about that, they can come on and talk about it, because I open it up to other topics as well if anyone wants to talk about it. But yeah, see, I got suspended off Twitter again. So it happened to me before, like in May or something, and I'm just kind of giving up with it now.
Yo,
alright. So two in at once by the looks of it.
You just about giving up with what?
Just like the Twitter platform, because I got suspended on it again, didn't I?
I've never used Twitter. I've never bought it. I don't see the value in it.
Yeah, it's probably not really a good way to. I tried using it, but it didn't seem to reach a lot of people, and it's just there's trolls over there like over here, and then they're just there's just people that will. It's not very productive, I don't think, actually. I tried to get something out of it, but it didn't really work. But like I said, I've been suspended.
Say this now, just because I'm looking at these pictures in more detail in each piece, and say, you know what, Anthony? There's a pretty good fucking chance these guys fake some shit, because even though the difference in those angles and stuff, and when I'm actually seeing where they line up versus what that video's doing, I don't know where else on the lake this could have been taken from, where he achieved the video footage he got, but it's not matched very well.
Okay, so let's go with the parallax thing. Tell me why you don't agree with the parallax. The objects in the foreground must move quicker than the objects in the background.
Okay. Well, it's a matter of how much closer they are versus if they're at an angle that's not directly 90 degrees from you to each other, not in a perfect straight line. So if you were to draw it in front of you and you said, I'm going to draw 5 squares on a piece of paper all in a row, and you say, okay, and then you draw another square in front of those that is cockeyed, almost 40 degrees, but it ain't quite. It's like 30 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever it is, where those beams are not dead center of those other squares. But you draw like a diamond or a square that's slightly kicked. As you go past it and you were to draw your straight lines of what you're viewing as you aim at it, you end up getting more parallax because you're starting from way behind, right? You're not actually near that first tower. It's just because of a zoom. Your actual location of where you're moving from is far away from the first tower you have in that video. You get less parallax than you think you would, because if you have that 90-degree straight on look of those other towers, you only have to move a few degrees to get those beams to start to cross over. But if that first tower is cocked real hard, but it's not at a perfect, if it's 45 degrees cocked, you could say, oh, look, perfect, these beams line straight through the middle. But that's not what's happening in that on the Google Maps with that tower. It's showing it's more like 20 or 30 degrees, which means you would have to move 10 or 15 degrees if they were the same distance away in order to get that beam to cross over like those other beams are crossing each other.
Yeah, but do you agree that all the pylons behind, even though I accept what you say, all the pylons behind would move less? The parallax will be observed less. So even though what you're saying is correct, it's relative to all of the pylons in situ. So what you're saying is correct, but all the pylons behind it would follow that same rule. And relatively speaking, you would see more movement with the first pylon than you would with any of the ones behind. All of the ones behind are moving in a uniformity that's comparable to what you'd expect to see. That front pylon doesn't.
No, and I'm saying you also have a different type of tower. It's a different size. You have different types of beams, everything. So when you have a different size thing in the front versus the back, it's going to affect it as well. So that's why I was against what you were saying when I looked at the Google Maps. But when I start detail looking at it and I look at where the columns go into the water and where the actual crossover points of that tower are versus where you expect those beams to be, and versed on where he was filming straight down, I'm still finding problems now. So like the reason you're stating it seems kind of fucked is like, it seems kind of fucked, but the excuses being given in your chat were legit. Like, but then when I actually, let's look at the actual fucking spot and see if it can do what they're saying. It's not quite achieving the result. I don't know. People can look at it for themselves. Go on Google Map, go on the road, look at it for yourselves if you want. Or also,
we did do this before we went live with it, because obviously, I mean, when we realized that parallax was missing, the first thing I asked him was, how do we know? I agree, but how do we know? And the answer was, you tell me. So we thought about it, and we didn't have an immediate way to do it, because when you go onto Google Earth or Google Maps, the position that he was in on the motorway is not that easy to replicate, because you don't see enough in the distance to be able to put the pylons back into place, because there is no zoom lens. Now, he's obviously doing the image on zoom lens.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy to reproduce. So we had to go to the general principles of parallax in the general state. And basically the position is objects in the foreground move quicker than objects in the background. And the front side and the back side of that pylon is closer than everything else. Doesn't matter about the angle it's on. It doesn't matter if it's on a different degrees. What matters is that it's closer to the angle of observation or the viewer than everything else behind it. Therefore, it's subject to parallax and the most movement. Now, it doesn't do it. You should see that there should be, because them two vertical stanchions are very, very close to the crossover point, you should see it. And I don't accept there's a reasonable explanation for why it doesn't do it. But I may be wrong, but we did try and brainstorm it, and we tried to look for the reasons what they would come up with. And you can't get past that they are the closest thing to the observer. They move the most. It doesn't move.
Anthony, this is exactly the argument Ball will bring to you regarding perspective. You know, they'll tell you that objects in the distance will not move as much as objects in the foreground. And what you're saying is absolutely right. And I think in any other case like this, it's an accumulation of these pieces of evidence, you know, which give the game away. I think you proved the case, you know, but again, who is the judge and jury in this courthouse? Who are we trying to prove these things to? To the liars who've been busted 101 times, pulling the same tricks, you know, going down the same avenues, or I guess, I don't know, flat earthers who probably, you know, anyone with a reasonable head on their shoulders can put all the pieces together and say we are dealing with trickery here, and you know, if you're going to make the call. So again, it's about the cumulative issues that you have. It's like the footage with 9/11. You know, it's not one particular thing that will hang it. It's when you collate all the pieces of evidence together that you can make the call definitively that you're dealing with an artificial creation here presented as reality. And of course, that's what the globe is in the first place. You know, and if you don't think that, I'm not talking to you, Anthony, specifically, but in general, if you don't think that these people, these tricksters, haven't got all the tools of the trade in their arsenal, well, then you're crazy. And one more thing, you'll find with a lot of these people, they're nameless and they're faceless.
Which is exactly what Soundly is.
Right, exactly. So we can't get no satisfaction, Anthony. Not
satisfaction. The satisfaction comes from the fact that Soundly's been invited by Sean Hufford, and a few other Americans to go and witness that that eclipse that's coming up. And he's refused it. He's found reasons not to go because his dad has this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, you're not going because you're getting outed right now, and you realise that you're getting cornered, and you may not actually be able to go for face value.
Right, but again, who are you talking to, man? You're talking to someone called Soundly. That's all you got to go on, and a few videos.
Well, at least Sean Hufford, whether he's right or wrong, baller or not, he shows his face. I mean, that to me it adds credibility to him.
Well, there's different layers. This, in general, not to get into this, and he says, I suppose it's about everyone finding out for themselves, but flat Earth is infiltrated at every level. So there's the nameless, faceless ones, but there's also the named and the face. I was going to say faceful, the ones with face, So, by their fruits they're known. Again, you'll present your case, and you'll spend much of your time, and of course it's a great thing to be able to prove, and you'll prove it categorically. But each and every time, they will all deny, as a team, all the people who have been long-term, say, let's go baller antagonists, they will all object and reject anything you have to say, moving into whenever. If this goes on for 10 years, they'll be doing the same thing because it's a job, it's an act. They're all intelligent as well, Anthony. This is the point. This is what should get the game away.
They're not all intelligent. I think that Soundly's motive wasn't actually to show that there was curve of the Earth. I think he was actually testing how naive and gullible the ballers are to see what they could get away with, because I don't believe that he intentionally released those videos to prove curve. I believe he was intentionally releasing those videos to show that ballers will believe fucking anything if it supports their narrative.
Right. Well, their position is getting more and more untenable as time goes by, and for me, in a big sense, and of course I've said this to you before, and I've also made it clear in text chat or messages or whatever, that let me just say, this time last year, if you know the Miramar Beach, if you haven't seen the Miramar Beach video, you can see islands in the distance 30 miles, and there was much effort gone into that this time last year, and proved beyond a doubt that these islands should not be visible according to the curvatures. One of the only times I've seen Negatory getting mad. Again, he was had a chat like this, and it was a full house as well, that sort of thing. And they were flummoxed. They were flabbergasted. They couldn't, no matter what they tried. Paper Explanator, one of the top Earth discussion physics guys, couldn't come up with anything. But again, it's all forgotten about. It's a complete proof, all forgotten about.
It's not forgotten about me.
The very next day, sort of thing. So,
I remember those videos.
Yeah.
I grew up in that place. If you're talking by Santa Barbara, I grew up right by there. I saw those islands all the time.
Yeah, absolute proof. It was absolute proof that even the smallest one, the littlest of one, was built, and all they had to resort to at the very end then was, and as I said, one of the few times I've seen Negatory getting angry, but all they had to resort to, it's a mirage, and it clearly wasn't. So they're defeated. But again, I don't know, I can't compare it to, an arm wrestle or something. You keep beating someone in an arm wrestle and they keep coming back and you keep playing them. It's that sort of thing, but they're paid to do it. They're actor agents. So I guess we can continue on and show them up to be as silly as their arguments are at this stage. But you have to know the nature of it as well. You can only be kind to them so often until you have to call them out. That's my point.
See, right now, I'm even looking for evidence on this whole thing we're talking about because, while I'm listening to you guys, I'm looking around this lake. If there's somewhere else that looks enough like this, that this guy took the video somewhere else. Not even going to put it away yet. You know what I mean?
Look, even from a normal point of view, look, if that was the case, if that was showing real curvature, you'd see it everywhere. There'd be thousands of pictures. So this is not a scientific method to take one anomaly, but I see what Anthony is doing as well. I think CGI and computer generated imagery techniques, even to the lay person, computer easily done. These fucking simple, And this is I always point out media fakery as well, because and that's why I point out 9/11 media fakery, because that's the biggest one. If people find out they were fooled and tricked with 9/11 media fakery, then they'll be able to see the rest. And when you go looking, you find it everywhere.
9/11 never tricked me, man. Maybe like first day I was like, holy shit, like everybody else, just the initial shock. But once the story came out, I never believed it for a fucking minute. I didn't
Well, I'm
believe
just. I didn't
2001
want to.
the official story was legit. I never had spent a day in my life believing the moon landings.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Once the 9/11 media, it's everywhere. So to think that these tools aren't being used, and of course I say they are being used everywhere, it's something we have to be aware of. So again, if that was a reality and that picture showed curvature, you should be able to go back tomorrow and see the same thing. If you can't, and as well as that, anyone should be able to see it anywhere around the world because it's so clear. It seems to be so clear in that representation.
Yeah, the observations are different within a few hours as well. Like when we were at Blackpool and we saw this oil rig and we went down and we couldn't see it anymore. But later on, as the tide went out, you could see it at pretty much sea level.
Yeah.
Because you saw that, didn't you, Anthony?
Yeah.
Well, so it kind of proves how the tides can affect the visibility of different objects.
Well, now that I've spent a bunch of time looking for other locations that this might have been, I'm going to go with my original found location, which I'm assuming is where he filmed that because it looks like it. I don't have a P900 there or the massive tower in the background to prove that matches exact, but it looks like it's spot. So if you don't mind, I'd like to screen share what I was talking about for all the YouTubers.
Yeah, go ahead and I'll present you. Make sure not to expose the link.
I use a different browser, man.
I think generally
use the browser my Hangouts is.
There you go.
All right, you guys looking? You got it?
Yeah, we're watching.
All right, so we see here, this is the tower we're talking about in the leg of that tower. And then here's that big row of power lines, and you can zoom in frame by frame. But there's going to be a crossover point that's back to this side of the screen. If you look at this leg's coming up this way in the front, and then this leg's in the back. So I don't even know how he got those legs in that direction in front of these towers.
Well, that's what I said. He had to have been on a magic carpet.
Yeah. Like when I looked at these the pylons here that were holding that up, I actually started leaning back toward what Anthony was saying. Like, nah, like even though this is so cocked, when I'll back out a little bit. I'm on the I-10 for anybody watching.
The other thing is the lack of vibration. I know that YouTube can image stabilize, but it can't image stabilize the contours of the road and the suspension and the potholes. It can't be done when he's zooming in. It cannot be done.
Yeah, but look at what I'm looking at here. Just like where crossover happens, it doesn't match well enough. I don't know what he was doing, but you look at the pylons too, and where you expect that crossover point would be, you'd still be looking down that row. So unless that's a different location, and he's on, I already scrolled on the map all the way down to the other end of that power line and all the way down that power line, tried to find any other road that it could be on Lake Pontchartrain, and fuck it ain't that. Like it doesn't match his video. So as much as I was arguing that angle would take longer to get to crossover than the angles behind it, which it does, which is what I was arguing with Anthony in the first place, and I go that, so the crossover aspect of those beams doesn't really mean shit. But the other problem is this still doesn't match his fucking video.
None of it matches his video, but
so therefore I'm like, you're probably right. It's probably bullshit because
let me ask you. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt,
but it's still bullshit.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but how valid do you think the blueness of the water is as a criticism?
What's that?
How valid do you think the blueness of the water is as a criticism?
Yeah, it's a different day. I mean, one video was showing, daylight, nice. This is a cloudy day that the Google car took pictures of it. So I don't know. It might be a different spot because it looks like it could be a different spot from what I can tell too. I'm like looking at his stuff. I'm just got to look at his other videos more, and maybe I'm missing something. I'm not giving up on it. I'm just saying.
I mean, Ireland, if you've seen enough, but you've seen enough information. I mean, if you had to make the call, if someone pushed you to make the call, is it fake or is it real?
I don't have information because I don't know if I've ran out of new information to find. I will spend enough time, maybe another 30 minutes, looking for new information. If no new information shows up, then I will make a call. You know what I mean? Like I started on one, like here's a bunch of information that wasn't taken into account when Anthony was presenting it. That made me question what Anthony was saying. And then I go, wait, okay, there's more information that gets me back to hey, Anthony might not be wrong on this because what the fuck's going on with this? And then now I go, okay, is there another piece I'm still missing? I'll let you know sometime during this chat. I'll keep looking.
Yeah.
What about the
call? but it ain't there yet.
What about the? I mean, would you agree that based on the Google image that you've just shown, would you agree that he has to zoom in with his P900 to get as close to that first pylon as he actually does?
That you would need the zoom of a P900 to do it?
No, that he has to zoom in.
Yeah, there's a big zoom going on from the road to that tower.
Agreed. Now, when he does that zoom, I don't know if you've ever got any experience with photography, and I don't proclaim to be an expert, but I do know that when you zoom in, even when you go beyond past, say, 10 or 15, 20% zoom, any little judder that you get is magnified, and it really does make the image really juddery. But the amount of zoom that he needs on that bridge to get that shot that he does is a lot. Now, the camera does not move an inch. There is no way that he could do that in the circumstances that he claims, which was in a car driving by, sticking his arm out the window kind of thing. It's bullshit. That cannot happen. Now, apparently, he recorded himself doing it on his mobile phone, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Does that prove that he recorded it? The answer is no, because it may look that way, but there's nothing to say that the camera that he says was recording was even switched on. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's being recorded doesn't. But I can tell you now that you cannot zoom in much at all before the slightest of movements in the camera. And even if it was mounted on a gimbal of some kind, you've got the contour of the road, you've got potholes, you've got general unevenness of the road. That camera is going to move, and it's going to move a lot, and it's going to be impossible to record that image the way he says he's done it. I mean, that in itself is proof that it didn't work, but I didn't go with it because there are people that have never used a camera that will listen to the arguments against it and say, well, it's possible, and it creates a discussion. But we went with the best discussion the best point that we felt we could make that wouldn't create a discussion was the parallax, but it appears to have made a discussion which we thought was an absolute proof.
It's cumulative. If you're looking for an overall picture, it's cumulative and it's damning, Anthony. I'll make the call. It's faked. It has to be.
It is fake.
It's like when I do face comparisons to myself, or anyone for that matter. When two people look alike and you have one match or slight match or, possible match here in one area, and then you have another one. The more these possible matches sort of add up, the more certain you can become of your suspicion. And this is the same with the footage. And I'm not taking it too seriously in that sense, but I know that these are just the schemes and the tricks that these people have been exposed for using. So, I mean, how many more times do you want to know that there's trickery going on? One thing I will say is you can be sure all flat earthers out there will understand and have followed your argumentation and will make the same call. You have to make the same call. But here's the point. All of these baller antagonists, these persistent baller antagonists, will make the same call as well, which will be opposite to the flat earth call.
And they will literally do anything they can.
In a real world, does that?
Yeah, they'll do anything they can to try and discredit the arguments, no matter how remote or unfeasible it is. I mean, the reality is the island just showed how far away that first pylon actually is. You have to zoom in a lot to get that.
Okay, I'm going through Soundly's videos right now, and I'm looking at his first one of these. It's the Recon Lake Ponta Train transmission line one, and it is most definitely the same fucking spot. So I'm not off on that, confirmed on that aspect. It's not looking good for Soundly from what I'm looking at now. I'm going to keep poking around.
Just say that again. I didn't quite catch what you said.
I'm saying I said, well, maybe it's a different spot earlier. Maybe I got something wrong and all that. And I'm going through his other videos where he's doing the same thing. And I am telling you now, it's easy to confirm with his other videos that is definitely the exact same spot. So the Google Map stuff I was talking about before is at that exact location. It's not is it there? Isn't it there? I think it's the best spot. No, he's got videos showing it is that spot. Yeah, that's why I hadn't made my decision on where this is going as far as what I think of it, because I was like, well, maybe I got the wrong spot. Maybe there's something I'm not getting. I'll keep looking. No, I've confirmed. It's definitely that spot.
I often said flat Earth is the biggest conspiracy ever. And actually, I take your point as well, Anthony, that you made a little earlier about this being a sort of a ploy to expose the ballers and how poorly their arguments are. Just how far they'll back an argument which has no basis, intellectual basis, or scientific basis. So they're sort of hoisted by their own petards in a sense. They're being shown up, and that actually ties into what I think is going on as well. The further we move into this unraveling, I guess is what you're going to call it, a new beginning, is the illusion. All the illusion has to be shattered. So these people, all actors, that's what I say, well funded, of course. There's no limit to any sort of a fabricated evidence they can offer. They've been doing it at every level, up to the very top level, down to the local media level. You know, this is just a game we're within. But yeah, I do see this as a sort of, in one sense, a honing of the intellect of maybe certainly new flat earthers, you know, would be able to sort of run through this themselves and see exactly points being made, and hopefully the ridiculous opposition en masse that has been thrown at truth.
All right, I'm going to call this now because Pete's been asking what's the call.
I know which way you're going.
Much as I thought Anthony had done it wrong because of that angle, being able to do that, which is what the globe people were talking about, I call bullshit on this fucking show that is not Anthony. I'm sorry, but bullshit.
Nice.
You guys are right. Anthony, I owe you an apology. I'm looking at the footage. There's no fucking way he got that footage legitly taken from that spot.
That was exactly
I'm glad I forced you to make the call, Ireland. That was easy. I knew you'd do it.
Ireland. The other thing is, where does he need to be able to get that image that he claims he's took?
No, it's not doable. It's just, I'm looking at the towers, I'm looking at the fucking map, I'm looking at every last aspect, I'm going through all these other fucking videos. I have no way of making a car on that road do what he's showing in that video.
Yeah. I agree. And do you agree he's got to be on a magic carpet that's just in front of the pylon the way it looks?
A magic carpet wouldn't be enough.
Alibaba.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, what I've discovered when I look at where the inside versus the outside of those beams, holding that up, where the crossover points are, it's a fucking bullshit video.
It's just like the Hezarkhani video on 9/11 when he's looked at aircraft going by 500 miles an hour, just barely above his head, a few short meters, and he keeps it perfectly still in frame all the way. It's ridiculous on the face of it, you know.
I just think it's great you guys got fucking evidence of ballers faking fucking evidence.
So you agree that he is faking it, right?
Yeah, it's fake. It's bullshit. I'm looking at it. I've gone through it fucking 20, 30 times at this fucking point, and I've looked at how can I make that fucking happen, and I can't imagine how I can get, because the inside of the beams is the wrong direction. You have the inside of one beam and the outside of another, and they're basically fucking backwards in this video compared to where they should be if you are passing that fucking spot in your car filming that direction. And I have confirmed that is the exact fucking spot. The inside of the one beam is in the wrong fucking spot for passing those towers. It's on the wrong side of the outer beam in his video. It's fucking backward compared to Google. So how the fuck does that happen?
Now, if you accept that he's faking stuff, does that then mean that he's discredited and therefore?
No, as soon as I find a fake anything, I don't care if it's Jeranism or I found shit that I knew was bullshit or anybody else. If I find fake ass shit, I'm done with that person.
Hello, Anthony, Ireland, Jeremy, and Pete.
Hi there.
I'm back. I got cut off several times. Sorry about that.
I don't think Jeremy is here as well.
Skyfly, you're the guy I met in Blackpool recently, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Apologies.
That's no problem.
So for all those guys listening, I know I'm the guy who doesn't believe it's flat or globe, and usually I'm fucking pissing off flat earthers by saying, no, it's bullshit evidence, blah, blah, blah. Today, I have to give one to flat earth. I gotta fucking do it. You guys did a great job.
And the reality is, Soundly is providing fake evidence and passing it off as real. Do you agree?
It's what I'm seeing, man. I'm looking at the exact spot, and either Google is posting fake bullshit for some random reason at that exact fucking location, or the guy's full of shit.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the two has to be happening, and I don't think Google picked that random fucking spot compared to this guy, so I'm saying nah.
What you've just done is exactly what we did when we...
Bullshit. Well, now you got someone who's not a flat earther agreeing with you, and you got it being said publicly. I don't believe it's flat, and this motherfucker's giving fake evidence for a globe, so yeah, good fucking luck.
So even on a magic carpet, that guy's got to be in a perfectly precise position, which you can't get to without a magic carpet, right?
No, there is no magic. A magic carpet couldn't do it. I don't care if you can adjust yourself anywhere in the fucking way that's lined up. It cannot be lined up that way. You would actually have to move the tower from its location, twist it, bend it, get it in a whole different fucking spot to make that shot again.
So does that mean he has been using wireframe? Does that mean he has been using wireframe technology at least, or something similar?
Dude, I'm not. That's when I start getting conspiracy theorist of it. All I know is if I had a magic carpet and I could take my fucking Nikon camera over there and take any fucking shot I wanted, I could not even get close to duplicating what he said happened.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I have nothing more to say on how he did it. I don't care how he did it. I know he didn't do it legit.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you look at that the Google footage that you just played and look at how the confirmation of the whole picture is shown, basically there's a lot of variations of grey, greeny grey, murky coloured water. I mean, right, forget the watercolour, but the composition of the pylons themselves, they don't look like Walt Disney have made them. But on Soundly's video, it clearly looks CGI. Clearly.
saying the beams are backward. You have the inside of one beam and the outside of another. And there's a crossover point where you pass the electrical lines behind, where you pass all the other towers. The beams he's showing on that front tower are on the wrong fucking side of each other. At that point, when you look down those towers, the legs of those beams are backward. The inside one is on the wrong side. They need to switch locations, and it could be done. But it obviously ain't being fucking done with what he's showing.
Can I just interject here? I looked at the equinox sunlight times today, and from the equator up to 80 degrees north and 80 degrees south, you get 12 hours of sunlight. From 86 degrees up to 88 degrees, you get 13 hours of sunlight, north and south. And at 89 degrees, you get 16 hours of sunlight. And at 0 degrees, which is the North Pole or the South Pole, you get 24 hours of sunlight. Now, how does that work?
That's not right. That's not right, man.
It is correct.
No.
AJC 1844 has explained it comprehensively in his most recent video. Go and watch that and then come back to us with questions, because it's
what did you have to say about Anthony's video, Skyfire, Brian? Why didn't you mention that first, and then you could have talked about
I've not seen that. Sorry, I've not seen it.
Because that's kind of the topic at the minute.
Yeah, but even your own facts there are incorrect, man. What did
Well,
you
they're
say
not. So I checked it on Severium.
Up at 89 degrees, you only have 15 hours of, what did you say? Many hours of sunshine?
16 hours at 89.
Fucking 16. It is 20 hours of sunshine here, man. Or daylight.
I know. This is not. This is on the equinox, which is March the 20th, 2017, or the 22nd of September, 2017.
Okay, I thought you were talking about today. You just
no, not today. No, not today. On the equinox.
Well, you just came in out of the blue with that, didn't you?
Sorry, yeah. I had it in my head. See, I've been doing it for the last 2 hours, but I couldn't get on because I got kicked off, and then I went and done my own hangout, and then went to another hangout. Sorry about that. I didn't think. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of like coming out with a completely different. I mean, we're talking at the minute about Soundly and
okay.
fake evidence. And I mean, to be honest, my position is that from day one I thought it was fake, but I had no reason to suggest why, because I didn't know. And then I got an email from this guy saying, like, from Nummy Num, saying like, yeah, this is what I think. What do you think? And I'll be honest, I was dead skeptical, because I mean, why would somebody come to me and say there's the evidence that I believe is proving it? Because I was skeptical. I didn't trust. I mean, I'd never met him before, so I chatted to him and literally showed it, and I just thought, he's fucking right. I mean, even if he's not absolutely right, he's more right than I could ever be. So I thought, fuck it, let's go with it and just see what happens. So we did, and then we got some criticism from GeoStreamer, and then the reality is, from there, we built on it, and the reality is, what he shows cannot be true. Ron Burgundy claims that my claims have already been debunked. I don't think they have been debunked. This whole Ron Burgundy, who's debunked them? Let me guess. Slice Barkane and Sean Hufford. Don't be ridiculous. Slice Barkane couldn't debunk a fucking shadow.
I mean, what do you do at this stage, Anthony? In general, how can you take any of these people seriously? I mean, I've had all my dealings with Red's Rhetoric, Quartus, Paper Expert, all those guys. They're all the same. They're all a team behind the
Let's get him on now, shall we? Paper Expert.
They're a team behind the scene, and again, they don't look upon it. It's an act to them. What you're doing is soundly beating them, or you're soundly showing to any rational, reasonable mind that we're dealing with a fabrication here that doesn't adhere to reality.
Yeah.
You know? And they're defending. This is how I said, I knew it within this time last year, within about a week, I knew all these guys were actors because they're too intelligent. This is what I'm saying. This is not the stance of an honest investigator as you're moving forward. You know what I mean? They're as bowlers. Let's say that they're honest, they have integrity, and they're moving forward in a scientific manner. They will have to at least give us something, you know, but they never, to a man, will budge in it. And again, what are you going to do? Keep dealing with them in a serious manner. But hopefully what you are doing is soundly pounding them and showing any people on the fence, any genuine flat earthers, which are more and more people who obviously this is how it's been laid out, showing them definitively that, first of all, this is the level that these antagonists stoop to, and they're just representative of the greater, their employers or whatever, you know, they're representative of the greater system, because of course NASA themselves and our whole view of our cosmos has been fabricated by their overlords, if you will. So again, yeah, it will help any new flat earthers coming in just to see exactly the game that we're in. And it is a game. It is a game. To anyone out there, don't make no mistake, it is a game.
Well, look, we can't say it's just one side doing this stuff, because I can find Eric DeBay videos doing the exact same kind of shit. And you can't say, if you use that kind of logic, like this one guy is a faking bullshitting guy getting sun, and we find a flat earther like Eric DeBay, and I can go to his video and say, here's where he fucked up, here's where this is, it's fake as fuck, here's where he's lying his ass off and he knows it. And then you go, that just credits all the flat. You can't say that.
You know well enough my position in this, and I'll just state it briefly as well. It's easy enough to identify the baller antagonist actor. They sing from the same hymn sheet. What's a little more difficult is to identify the actors within Flat Earth. And I'm telling you, once you look, they're everywhere. Sorry to say, shock the people
out there. Like, don't, just because someone believes in a globe doesn't make them an actor. There are fucking actors, like you said, everywhere. Like, we just gotta differentiate. Like, hey, some of these people are trying to do legit. Some of these people actually have a belief, whether it's right or wrong. And there's people who are just peddling bullshit. And we need to call them out. Whatever, I don't care what their fucking belief is. We need to call out the bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I have been. I mean, Mark Sargent is an actor. Patricia Steere is an actor. But people don't want to talk about these things. But I mean, if you're going to be saying, this is ultimately what I think the idea is anyway. It's about the individual waking up, and they've left clues. Patricia Steere, Miss Steere, as her clue. A steer being a castrated bull calf.
You don't even have to get into it.
She's accused of being castrated.
I think Patricia's an actor. I think Mark's an actor. The easiest way to find all those big ass actors is just go onto Patricia's webpage.
But they're in the truth.
What she writes in that separate category, who say people I really respect and trust, and you got a list of every fucking actor she's involved with.
Well, my point is they're leaving you clues, so you shouldn't feel guilty about investigating any of these areas because they're all there. I mean, if anyone's been listening to what I've been talking about, for me it's fascinating anyway, and there's a direct line in all of this. But everyone points at Mark Sargent, and Mark Sargent himself is a prepper. His only internet presence before Clues came out, Flat Earth Clues, was a prepper's guide. Very strange in itself, but again, all the clues are there. So there's a few different games going on here in my estimation. And just again, I think there's a greater game going on. And when I call out people as actors, that's not to make any judgment against the man or the woman. They could have the best of intentions on all sides. They could be privy to a greater secret or unveiling or whatever, playing that role to get the individual to wake up to the truth on every level. Because let me just say, Jamie, I think realistically and really, our real capabilities, our true powers, this is easy shit to us. We're capable of considering so much, and indeed the greater us, I guess, knows so much as well.
Well, let's put it in a bigger context, right? Like, let's say I'm wrong as fuck. Everything I believe is clearly fucking wrong. I'm hypothetically just looking at what's going on here, and I go, okay. And then I look at Flat Earth, and I go, Flat Earth is completely fucking wrong. And then I look at the Helios, and I say it's completely wrong. And there's nobody right here, not one fucking person. Now, if the people who are the money makers, the guys making money off of this shit, I don't care where they're located, I don't care if they're flat, I don't care if they're globe, I don't care if it's fucking NASA. If they require a certain dialogue to be going on and a certain belief system throughout the masses to be going on, and there is controlled opposition to help them continue what they're doing in order to take and steal all this fucking money, then that's what the fuck's going on. And we could all be wrong and just go, look, these motherfuckers don't know any more than the rest of us. It may not be possible for any of us to know any of it. And you just say, all I do know is these fuckers are pretending like they know and stealing everybody's fucking money. And that's it.
This is a war, man. This is a war for our very lives in one real sense, isn't it? There's real shit happening here. They are part and parcel of the enemy's arsenal, I guess. They're the men underground.
Yeah, you got to put it in actual context for the people listening to even think about it. If you say all this shit's bullshit, we can never fucking know. Nobody has a fucking clue. We're grasping at fucking straws. These guys are stealing money. How much money are they stealing? If you go, oh, it's 1.5% of the national budget, and you go, well, if you're an American citizen and NASA's taking 1.5% and your income is $50,000, well, congratulations to your family. They just stole $1,500 fucking dollars out of your fucking pocket personally, you and your families this year. They just stole $1,500. And if they didn't take it all yet because they left a bunch of debt for you to pay later or your kids to pay later, they're still taking it and you're still fucking paying it. And that's the reality where you live.
When you really think about it, it's disgusting. What we put our children to, if we all just took a pill and realized what we were doing to our children, we fucking wouldn't be around long because it's so horrible. And on top of the money, this is our destinies that are being waylaid in a big sense. I have to sit here and understand that my child has been lied to at every fucking single level by strangers who We don't give a fuck, you know. But that's what I'm saying. When I do call out actors, it could be very easy to get angry because I know that they're protecting or part and parcel of this system of deception that's so monstrous and so sort of ubiquitous, you know. But again, I can't. I also entertain that. Well, especially if you've been listening to anything I've been saying, everything is fabricated. Our whole fabricated history, in my mind, now only goes back a few hundred years, 400 or 500 years, as I talked about. Before that, everything was different. I wanted to ask Anthony a few questions actually in a bit, so that reminds me of that. But yeah, everything was different. So therefore, if we don't know what is going on, we have no context to put in anything in. You know what I mean? And that's the greater question that flat Earth, or questions that flat Earth brings to the table as well, you know. So yeah,
ask the questions.
What was going to? Okay, yeah. You talked about you talked about you have experience with a P900, and you were just talking about the moon earlier on, giving an estimate that it was maybe 1,500. Yeah, look at that, baby. That's substantial, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite cool. But to be honest, it's quite a shit camera. It's just good for zoom. I don't find it to be a good camera in all other aspects. But
no, I got the 3400 instead because of that. It doesn't go as far, but it's way better quality.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, the good things about it is it's got built-in GPS that overlay onto the imagery, and the date and time can be overlaid on the imagery, which is quite standard in most cameras, but a lot of them don't have GPS. Incredible zoom, and it has the Wi-Fi connectivity for your long exposure. Them four elements make me think that it was designed intentionally for flat Earth, because it's just uncanny that they're all there.
There's many marketing opportunities within the flat Earth, and there's certainly lots of people making some money anyway, if not potentially a lot of money.
Yeah,
which we don't. I don't like. You know, I don't like to see that at all. Of course, again, it's just part and parcel of this anyway. But you have to accept that money is part and parcel of at least the motivations of some. But getting beyond that, yeah, my question was going to be to you. You've used that camera. You've seen the extents of the zoom. You appreciate somewhat, definitely more than I do, the technology involved.
Yeah.
How when you zoom in on the moon then, and you can get such a sort of a perfect close image of it, can you claim that that's the moon is 1,500 miles away or similar? You know,
it's the same with the stars. When you look at the like Sirius, or if you look at Betelgeuse or any of the stars, they're almost in focus. No, they're not in focus, but they're definitely not out of focus. Now that tells me that the stars are getting almost within the zoom range of the camera. They're not quite there yet, but it would be interesting to see what the P900 successor will do with the stars, because I think the P900 is going to be superseded by what they call the P950, and instead of having an 88 optical zoom, it's going to have a 125, and that's seriously more powerful. It's almost double, and I think that the feeling is going to be the stars are going to be pretty much in focus, telling us that they are really close. So how is it so close?
Moon? I mean, that's what I was asking you. I mean, you know, all your senses would tell you as well, that fucking thing is right there, maybe 50, 100 miles away, something like that. You know, it's difficult to equate what we can sort of relate to on the ground in terms of this zoom capabilities, as opposed to, we don't know what it's like, you see. We're not sure of anything up there. I was just thinking the other day, orbital mechanics, my arse. We don't know what it's like to look at a rock in space, because there's no fucking rocks in space. What we're looking at is lights, you know, but which have been always known to be lights, in my view, but have been misinterpreted purposefully, you know, for the purpose of this grander deception that we're all in, you know. Yeah. But I'm just saying about the senses, Anthony, if you were to push, forgetting about any other theories, if you were to be called on a best possible figure, you know, for the moon, if you just with the zoom in capabilities, you know, well, actually, have you not seen you know, all the close-up imagery, which is perfectly in focus and makes it look right there? Is that cameras of greater capabilities than the P900?
No, I'd say it's the P900, because you can do it. I mean, if the moon's 240,000 miles away, and the size we see the moon is massive, and they're telling us it's a quarter of the size that it actually is, it's not. It doesn't make logical sense when you look at the size that they tell us it's supposed to be. No. It just doesn't make any sense. So it's like your senses tell you one thing, that the moon's close, but then when you get the P900 on it, it really does look like it's almost, you could reach out and touch it. Right. But it also looks, in my opinion, it doesn't look tangible. It looks not holographic, but it looks projected, because it's just the way it appears to me. My own interpretation, and I'm not saying that it's not, but for me, when I don't know, it just doesn't look real. It looks, for me, it's
get my telescope though. and it has a way better zoom than a P900.
No, you'd be surprised. They don't have that much better, and some of them don't have better at all.
My zoom on my telescope, I'm getting about 160.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
it's 89, so it's almost double. It ain't quite double the P900, but it's pretty fucking close for my one at home. And I've used bigger ones, and I've had better ones. Like my father had a huge ass one.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing to compare it to.
Videos show. If I look at a P900 video and I go, this is what the stars are doing, and this, and everybody's, and then I look through a telescope that has no digital anything, it's just pure optical with twice the zoom of a P900. I don't see anything like what I see on a P900 deal.
What do you mean?
I mean, like when people go, look at these stars changing colors, doing it, and none of that happens on a telescope.
Well, what
Ireland has a strange position as well. Anthony, if you're not familiar with it, maybe you care to explain it briefly. Ireland, I mean, you think the sun is anywhere between 50 million miles or something or around that away, still away. So it's sort of like a halfway house between the official figure and maybe flat earth figures. But if you'd like to explain.
I'm going to break some extra actual info off for once, because I'm at the point where I feel pretty comfortable. And this will even go to some of the stuff that Anthony's talked about. And if you ever notice when you're seeing things and you don't have the conditions for a mirage, and they just say there's no mirage going on. And Anthony was talking the other day saying, hey, look, where I'm at this elevation and what we're seeing, this is 29 to 30 miles away, and it's only supposed to be 18. And I go, yep. And when I actually start calculating out the math on the inverse of a geocentric model, I believe that what we view as light is actually bending at the golden ratio. But we don't see a true golden ratio because we're on the inside of a curve, so it's already bending at a at its own bends, right? So you basically have pi inside the circle based on your rate. And if you have a distance of whatever your distance is, and you say it's based on this radius of the Earth, and you say you're going to use a quarter of pi because that's the radius of what's in the Earth from the center. If you were to count it as a ball, you say, okay, you have basically 0.72 roughly, so just round it off. And you say, okay, and if I have light being bent downward, not upward like people think, because I've looked at Wild Heretics websites and that stuff, and they say, oh, look, by these measurements this guy's doing, it's showing that light's bending upward. And the problem is they're assuming that he's the light, and he's using builder's levels, shooting at different sticks and going, see what he shot before in the middle versus one side to the other, he's up 16 millimeters over a kilometer. The problem is the light's coming from that stick to him, not from him to the stick. So it's actually coming downward 16 millimeters. And when I start calculating this kind of stuff out, I keep ending up with the golden ratio compared to being on the inside of the ball and having the quarter of pi as the radius that we're in. And I keep saying, basically, every time you go, oh, look, I'm looking 30 miles instead of 18. And if you actually time your 18 by 1.618, which is the golden ratio, guess what? You're seeing just as far as your actual observation says you are. Now let me deal with the baby real quick, and I'll get back.
Sure.
Not me. I'm almost sorry I asked, man. What was that about? I'm kidding. But I know Ireland well. I don't know him well, but I know his position. But Anthony might know his position. But that's pretty convoluted. That's a lot to think about, isn't it? I mean, I think it's a lot simpler than that, personally. Let me just refer to Anthony when he talked about the moon not being real. Well, I've settled in my own mind that the moon isn't real. It has no separate existence of its own. And what it is, when you look at the moon, you are looking at the face of the sun as it is reflected off of the watery electromagnetic barrier that's probably less than 100 miles up. A different sense of perspective applies above as below, and that's what I was saying earlier on. We've never, even it's still ingrained in our brain that when we look at the moon, we're looking at some sort of solidity there. Well, we're not, and even the craters, I think I know what they're about as well. But in my thinking, because it's all got to do with the sun, everything's got to do with the sun. All there is the sun. So in other words, the stars, the moon, and the planets as well, the 3-in-1, the trident. That's what I look at the trident has been now. The 3-in-1, it's the stars, the moon, and the planets. They're all artifacts of the sun. So in other words, if you threw I mentioned this before, if you threw a massive blanket over the sun,
I actually think I think the moon, whatever the moon is or is not, I actually think it's the evidence of creation that we all ignore. I'm not a particular creationist. I don't have a particular religion. I don't have any particular prejudice or bias in favor favour of or against anything. I'm open to anything with the moon. But I think the fact that it's basically unexplained, and if science does know what it is, they just won't tell us. The fact that we even have to have the discussion about what the fuck the moon is, it's kind of my interpretation that the moon's basically doing that to science and saying, fuck you guys, you can't explain me, come and work me out. And the only explanation I can come up with is that it is evidence of creation, and it is because it defies science.
Because there's no rational explanation.
Well, see, I don't think it's a moon, right? Like, I'm serious. Like, you look at every other planet in our solar system, and you go, this one has these little moons, and all the stuff NASA's telling you, all the observatories, hey, look, this thing's spinning around it. There's nothing that's that huge, that close to another body like ours. And they go, wow, we got this really special moon. I don't think it's a moon. I think it's a planet. I think it is a planet in its own right. It is not orbiting us. In my model, I don't see it orbiting at all. I see that this is inside the Earth, and it is orbiting inside, just like the sun, just like other planets. The moon is not a moon at all. We just say, oh, it must be a moon because we're bigger than it. It has to be orbiting us. The idea of it is a moon at all is purely a heliocentric or geocentric attitude toward the Earth. I don't even want to give it that kind of respect, because that's almost like saying, oh, their model's right just by even calling it. You know what I mean? Like, you go, that's the moon. I go, no, that's our closest planet. And you say, oh, it's a hologram or whatever. But why do we call it a moon? It definitely ain't the same as all those other moons. It doesn't act like those other moons. It's not in any type of close proportional relationship to Earth as those moons are to what they're orbiting.
Yeah, but at this stage, we've left those things behind. I have anyway. I'm sure a lot of people have. Everything associated with the spinning ball, everything. It's fantasy. You can throw it out completely, but it'd be foolish to do that. I mentioned it about the sun. Observations will tell us that if the sun is the center and the Earth is moving around, then it moves in an elliptical fashion. Well, if we reverse that, so if we threw out that information, then we'd be at a loss because we can use it. If we reverse it and say the Earth is still, and that tells us the sun moves in an elliptical, so we can use that, and we can also apply that to, it depends on where your thinking is at. If you want to, I'm not sure where you're at in terms of lots of other things, Anthony. I mean, are you interested in the actual layout of the land masses on Earth and the overall bigger picture, I suppose? Or
in one sense, because I know that they've mapped out the land accurately, but the land in relation to the land itself, like, so you've got two continents next to each other. How close are they? Are they? Are they in the right direction? Are they in the right orientation? I mean, I am interested in that, but at this point, I'm most interested in Thrive and Survive's perception about this Pac-Man model. I've emailed him and I've said, like, I want to critically interview you about this, because when I first came to Flat Earth, Thrive was one of the video makers that I watched a lot of, and I didn't agree with him on everything, and I did disagree with him, and he never blocked me. He actually responded to most of my critique, because I was challenging stuff. I was trying to learn, and I wanted to see how it's possible that A, B, and C could be the opposite of what we were led to believe. And he took me under his wing to some degree and spoke to me and actually answered some of my criticisms, which obviously the likes of Dubay doesn't, and Jaren doesn't really do that. And maybe he does, but I just don't see it. Right. But I really want to find out why the Pac-Man model has got any traction, because I don't see any evidence to support it myself. And I think that it's worth checking and challenging it, because I don't understand the Pac-Man model. It doesn't seem to make any sense. But also, I don't want to dismiss it from my own ignorance, but I want to see what is the evidence that a big player like Rich is in the Flat Earth model now takes it under his hat and says, this is what I'm following. It's like, what? Pac-Man model? What are you on about? So yeah, I am interested in the landmass. Well, I want to know how big the seas are. They say the seas are like 70% of the Earth. How true is that then? Because if the Earth's not a ball, anything goes.
You sound like a man who's interested in a greater puzzle, Anthony. Would that be accurate? Do you play chess or something? Are you competitive with yourself especially?
I'm extremely competitive. I don't play chess. I find it too slow paced, but I am the kind of guy that will look at the fucking beard I've got, man. I mean, I'm not a guy that suffers with a lack of testosterone. I am competitive.
Well, you should definitely pick up chess.
A chess champion way back when, so you just don't get the chess.
Definitely take up chess. But what I was going to say is, you'd like the Dodo puzzle then, because I won't say any more. You mightn't have heard some of the things I might have had to say about it, but I've had to say quite a bit. And it is a grander puzzle. It's sort of the next layer, as I consider it anyway. It's Mark Sergeant Peppers. Sergeant Peppers has played a massive role in everything, but it's especially in terms of music culture, and if all fingers point back to Sergeant Pepper. If there was a greater game going on, a greater puzzle going on, And again, Mark Sargent and Sergeant Peppers, and Mark Sargent being a prepper, this is the wordplay that's going on. So I will just say to you, yeah, bear the dodo in mind in one sense. I will just say I agree with you. What I say the dodo is roughly is that it's an actual scaled down landmass, accurate representation of the intercontinental relationship after the inundation, right? What you need to do is to find the actual landmass areas, you know, and know that that's an accurate representation. See, I think you sort of take bits and pieces from here, there, and put them together, and then you formulate the overall model, I guess, you know. So you'll have the Earth, you'll have the layout of the Earth, which is fixed, right? I often say that the dodo wears a checkerboard dress. That's got to do with the coordinate system, the compass and the square and the compass and the G. The square represents the flat Earth, right? The checkerboard represents the chessboard, which represents the Cartesian coordinate system or the grid-like coordinate system. You're used to dealing with maps. Go into your local area. It's in a grid-like system, right? Suddenly, when you get, into continental level, we turn into a spherical coordinate system. We know that's nonsense. So yeah, the real coordinate system is a grid-like coordinate system, which is represented by the square. The Masonic compass then is above. The electromagnetic barrier shape, if you will, is spherical in nature, and spherical coordinate system is used to describe that. And then the G in the center, for me, I talked about that before, it's the sun, and it represents literally the movements of the sun. When you make a capital G, you do three movements. You do a circular sweeping movement, you do a vertical movement, and you do a horizontal movement. Now, if you imagine something going down a drain, right, draining away, that's exactly the three type of movement you'd expect. You know, you'd expect a swirling movement. As the water drains away, you'd expect a vertical movement, and then you'd expect a movement towards the center as well. So, yeah, that's the difference. You know what I mean? So that's the grander puzzle that I take it anyway. And Mark Sergeant Pepper, everyone points to Mark Sergeant Pepper. They all know that each of the others know they're playing a role, right? Again, what is the greater game? It could be for ultimate destruction. It could be exact opposite. You know, this is the call that you'll have to make yourself. But yeah, there's clues to be followed.
Like, why can't it be the Pied Piper leading people astray? Like, even if, let's say it's flat, right? Let's say I just caved to everything you guys say. Fuck it, okay, it's flat. It's not the flat model that these shills have been presenting whatsoever. It's a whole different fucking thing you're not even thinking about. But as long as they can present it with some other, here's some bullshit we know is fucking bullshit. We made it up. We spoke out our fucking asses on purpose. We Pied Piper everybody who goes, guess what? It's not a ball, into this fucking thing. And then when one of them explodes on it, or the other person, you know, collapses, bullshit, look at my tricks, and then people just start walking the fuck away.
But it's not that they walk away. You can't walk away from this because it's coming out. You know, the flat Earth truth is out.
I'm saying per person, I'm dealing with it. Like, it's killing the movement from within by leading it. It's like the only allowed opposition is controlled opposition. A government doesn't allow anything else. You know, Democrats and Republicans are one fucking party. And if they say that flat Earth is something that is going to fuck up their money stealing NASA shit, they're going to gain control of it and make sure that they steer it whatever way is best for them in order to keep stealing your fucking money.
Yeah, but you speak as if you know, man. You don't know any of this stuff. I mean,
it could just as easily be controlled opposition, because we keep, like, let me put it like this. There's patterns, right? If NASA lies and then NASA lies, and that's what I hear, and all this flat Earth stuff, guess what? When NASA says something, you're going to think you're probably fucking lying. And if your government does controlled opposition and controlled opposition and controlled opposition, and then look, here's opposition to something, and it's ended up on the news, and people are like actually talking about it, and they're letting a few celebrities, and it becomes controlled opposition.
Listen,
hang on, Soundly's after coming on, I think.
Listen, guys, just don't let Soundly on just yet. Leveled Out in chat has done a 3D animation of pylons with regards to the point that I made. If it's all right with the guy with what was his name now? Leveled Out. If it's all right with Leveled Out, I want to play it and let everyone see it, because it's making the point that I made exactly, and I want to let everybody critique it before Soundly comes in, because this is basically showing what I was saying, and this is what should really happen. So if where is it? Where's it?
This will be the sniping of the chat after he comes in a bit.
No, yeah, don't let him in because it'll get sniped.
You'll pass on the link to everybody.
He will pass it on, so let him only come in right at the very end, because there is no point letting him in beforehand.
Yeah, tell him to show his face as well.
He won't show his face. Where's leveled out or level out? Yes, share. Right, Jamie. Can I share? And will you present me if I hide the thing?
Screen share.
Yeah, I'll hide it.
Yeah, make sure to hide the link.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah.
Go on. It won't get shown. All right. So this has just been literally made, and this is the point that I was making. And Soundly, I hope you're watching because this basically proves it on CAD that what you did was wrong, and that our observations were in fact correct. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So from the angle of observation that Soundly's at, it's a little bit closer in, but Soundly, you forgot to parallax. I agree. What he's showing here is that the closer you get to the object, now you can't do it on Google Earth because you're too far away. So Soundly had to have been zoomed in, and obviously with the vibrations thing is an issue because it wasn't showing it. But you can see that the pylon in the foreground is suffering with parallax, and it doesn't do it. So somebody's done this very quickly, and thank you because I appreciate it. Basically, yeah, this is exactly what I was showing. And what he's doing is he's moving in between the pylons to show that it does do it on the closest object. There's the crossover, exactly the way I said.
Yeah, it just confirms our sense of reality about the whole situation. So
yeah, that crossover happens when everything else crosses over. That's one of the main fundamental rules of parallax.
Yeah, but see that tower, that way that first tower is drawn is not even what's on Google Earth. That's the thing.
Yeah, but it is because it's out of angle with everything else.
No, I'm saying they drew that the way it's in his video, and Google Earth shows it differently. The leg that you're showing farther away that's on the right is actually cocked the other direction. The leg that's the closest of the two on the left is actually turned on the opposite side. The video has them backward compared to what you actually see on Google Earth.
Yeah,
so
and
that is a representation of his video, not even a representation of what's actually there.
But in any event, it doesn't really matter. I accept that point, and you're right. But what my point was that the thing in the foreground moves quicker than the thing in the background, which is exactly what this video was showing. So Soundly was wrong. Soundly is frauding it somehow.
And AutoCAD is professional. It's used by professionals. So I mean, if you're going to do,
yeah, but you're zoomed in on an AutoCAD program where you're actually at that location in it, going side to side versus being way far back.
Yeah, but hang on.
Side to side while zoomed up.
Hang on, Soundly's also zoomed in.
I understand, but his movement is happening hundreds of feet away. Not his movement isn't happening at that point in the program as if you were standing there with the camera.
It doesn't matter. That point was discussed when he did the bridge thing with the article. It showed that when you zoom in, it's exactly the same as being stood there. It doesn't change. It doesn't distort the perception. It doesn't change the scale, or it doesn't change the size. It's the same.
Yeah, but the amount of movement for any given piece of the parallax changes based on if it's zoomed up and you're moving at a point. You say, I moved this far at this location, say it's 100 feet. And if you moved 100 feet as you're right up on it and it's in your face, the parallax is going to be a lot more obvious.
Soundly says you're basically making an echo chamber and lying to yourself. I ain't lying.
Look, if Soundly wants to fix this issue that I'm talking about compared to Google Earth, it's real fucking simple. Go take your P900, go to that same fucking spot, roll up on it at a distance, pass by the thing, and zoom up on it, and we can actually see that tower is exactly like it looks on Google Earth, because that ain't what I saw in this fucking video. Maybe it just looks fucked up on Google Earth. Prove that that's all it is. Because I see his other videos showing that, and then he goes to it. Part 2 of that video is the one you were showing, which is not connected. It's a fucking edit scene in between. Get rid of that fucking edit scene and show that it's all, here's it zoomed out, here's us passing through, here's it zoomed in with no fucking edits. Then you actually have some.
And the other thing is, he says that, I've lost it. You're basically making an echo chamber and lying to yourself. No, actually, I'm not lying to myself. You're lying to other people by passing off footage that you claim is real as real, and it clearly isn't. If you could show what you showed before, Ireland, with regards to the Google Maps, and explain it the way you did, because although I did the same thing, you explained it better than what I did to myself when I did it. But basically, the orientation of the pylons is not the way he shows it. And then he says, please explain how I managed to live stream the observation on my phone, drive to a coffee shop, and upload. Please explain that. Well, do you know what? That doesn't prove that you did actually record the footage that you say you did when you say you did.
He recorded the whole thing ahead of time, and he took the audio out, and then he just decided to talk over it while showing it on a live stream stream. How would you know?
Or he simply prepared the video footage, downloaded it onto his SD card, put the SD card into his camera, made it look like he was there at the time recording it, and then took the SD card out and uploaded it off the SD card, and it was there all the time, and it was never done recorded live at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't. It was already a pre-recorded video, all done up, all that shit. It's in his phone, and there he is with his fucking camera that doesn't even have a fucking SD card in it.
Right, he soundly says, I've already drove by the towers a bazillion times. How many more shots?
I can't do it one more. Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've already done it a bazillion times, just show us a link where you've done it, and let's cross-reference the towers that you drove by a bazillion times with what it shows on Google Earth, and let's see if it's verifiable. Because the whole point, soundly, is that it isn't verifiable. That which we are trying to verify is failing to verify up. That is the point. So if you've done it a
I got
bazillion
a
times...
free chair for you. Here we go.
He's accusing me of gaslighting. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so at all. Don't be ridiculous.
You guys looking at it? Got it up?
Yeah, I hope you're watching this soundly, because this is
Okay.
what
we go. Here is the leg right here on the outside closest to us. Here's the inside, the leg further from us that's closest to that side right there. And if you look at it, as we start moving in, frame by frame, click over, do it again. Okay, here we go. Still there, still there. One frame over, we keep going. Do it again. You can see where those legs are at. Same outside, same inside, right there. Inside, outside. Keep going. Now we're already as deep as he was in that picture. That leg that we were talking about was never on this side of it like it is in his video. It was always on that side of it, and we've already crossed the center of those towers. So even if he was zoomed way the fuck up, the leg is on the wrong side. I'm sorry. Your CGI was done stupid because you didn't realize you had it backwards.
And look at that. The YouTube said debunked at 7.98 meters squared. That's quality. Well done, YouTube. I recorded the view screen of the P900 where you can see the same observation during the live stream. Yeah, I saw that thing. To be honest, I couldn't make out that they were the same image because it looked like they were totally different. I mean, it might just be me misinterpreting what I saw, but it didn't appear to be the same observation that the camera was pointing at. Although I stand to be corrected, and I'm not going to take issue on it. All I'm going to say, soundly, is we only picked 2 or 3 pieces of your evidence because we picked the ones that were the most dodgy. So yeah, you may have other ones that are less dodgy, but we picked out the ones that we felt were the best to illustrate the point that we did. And there is probably other stronger ones, and there's probably other ones that are weaker. But the conclusion is that you are passing off fake evidence as real. There is no parallax in the imagery that you show. I'll give you a couple of pixels, but it has to be significant with what you're showing based on the magic carpet that you must be flying on to get the. I mean, soundly, answer me this with a yes, no. Were you zoomed in with your P900 when you took that evidence, the main pylon one that I was showing? Because there is no way you couldn't be based on this. That's far enough away for you. You have to zoom in. Now, if you're zoomed in, there is no way you can get that image as smooth as what you did. So that in itself is enough for me to know that you've done something dodgy. But I'm sure you've got some kind of bullshit excuse for it. But we know that you can't do this, soundly. You're pushing the parameters of physics at all angles.
Hey, look at that. Look at where I'm at now. Way the fuck over here. That leg's now on the right, correct side in order to have what he had in his video. Look at where the fucking towers are.
Yeah.
You switch backward, dude. CGI's fucked up.
He has fucked it up.
You thought you had something cool that you were going to fuck around with people on. Guess what? Nope.
Well, all I can say is soundly.
Good luck. Keep giving them shit.
Gem Panda, there is parallax, significant parallax. Gem, just look at the legs as well. Look at the angle of the legs or the position of the legs in relation to each other. They're on the wrong side. There is no way that Soundly has done that properly because Google Earth.
Parallax for the Globers, and then I found this shit and went fucking Globers. Like, yeah, you guys had me going. You're like, oh, that parallax could be doable at an angle. And I went and looked into it. Oh, yeah. And I was like thinking Anthony's full of shit. And then I saw, nope, you got backward. You did it wrong. It's obviously a fucking animation.
It is an animation. It is fake evidence. And we don't even have to answer how you did it live because it probably wasn't done live. And I don't have to explain that because it isn't part of the issue that I'm making. I'm not making out that you did it fake on when you did a live hangout.
It's not, how many videos do people show on a live hangout that are just a video? I mean, every time you've shown a video that's been pre-done on a live hangout, you show exactly how he did it. You're just showing a fucking video while you're doing a live hangout, and if you talk over it while using a program, big fucking deal. You really need to, that's impossible to do. Oh shit.
Right, listen, Island, he says, Soundly says, dude, cat's eyes, don't delete his messages. Dude, that looks exactly the same. You can even see the curve in Street View. Forget the curve in Street View, that's not what we're talking about. Well, the curve, what curve is he on about? He must be on about the curve of the pylons. It doesn't really matter.
It's just Maps. That first fucking thing is not really there in that location. Google Maps says his shit's fucking animation because it doesn't match. So if he has a problem with Google Maps having a different image than his, and his is the right one, call fucking Google and tell them their car's lying.
Soundly says, Riley, you're just a slander and a gaslighter. That's all you are. You are a despicable human being. All my
I'm
evidence.
not even a flat earther. I was trying to debunk Anthony when I found this shit. It wasn't even Anthony who found that the fucking legs on your animation were backward. It was a guy who doesn't believe in flat earth. Your shit sucks, Soundly. Sorry, you're not trustable. If you want to do a drive by the thing since you've done it 1,000 fucking times, go do it one more time and don't edit and clip out and all that shit. Go past the thing from wide, zoom in, zoom out, do it all in one fucking shot and show us something better, because what you currently have is a bunch of pieced together clips and bullshit.
Put your face behind it and put your name behind something.
Prove me wrong, man. Like, we proved you wrong right fucking now. It don't match what's on Google Maps. It doesn't even come fucking close. So if you say I'm wrong, I'm not looking at the Google map right, you just need a better zoom, whatever fucking bullshit excuse you want, go do it. Because obviously the evidence you tried to show everybody doesn't work, and it's not showing everybody shit. So show us something better if you got it, and if you don't, you don't.
And just a general comment, this is exactly what they love. You know, if they see a new person coming into the scene and who's genuine and serious and will take their arguments seriously, that's what they'll do. They'll cling to you and they'll drag it out as long as they can, you know, and get you bogged down wherever it is.
Yeah, this encapsulates Soundly. FPV Angel says no curve at 128,000 feet, but Soundly finds it at 50 feet.
50 yards.
Yeah. That's it.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. That's the reason why I got on the hot tub, because I wanted to see if Soundly could find the curvature in my hot tub.
That's just propaganda too, honestly. Like, that's a whole separate subject.
Right, Cats, stop deleting Soundly's messages, because we want the chat to see his messages, because we're discussing it. Let him speak unimpeded at the minute. Even if he says personal, I mean, the minute he gets personal, I want people to see that he's getting personal, because that shows that he discredits himself the minute he gets personal. He discredits himself, so let him speak freely. It absolutely was done live, and it completely thrashes you, Anthony, makes you look like a complete moron. Actually, Soundly, I can make myself look like a complete moron. I don't need anything that you can claim to be a representation that makes me look like a complete moron. I can do it all by myself, but on this occasion, I don't have to do anything.
The thing is he's in there bitching, whining, whatever. Somebody came on trying to discredit you, Anthony. I tried to disprove what you were fucking saying about this video. I tried to go, nope, I'm going to take it all the way. Every one of his fucking videos. I'm going to look at fucking Google. I was pushing, hoping. I even have like that whole like, man, I'm trying too hard for this guy. It could skew how I end up discovering or finding this. And yet I still ended up, no, the dude's full of shit. Anthony's right. Sorry, man, he caught you. Oh, well, get on with it.
Well, for me, the ultimate point is here, Anthony, you went into this honestly. You saw anomalies with the photograph in question that was presented as evidence for curvature, which is a massive claim in the first place. So any investigation involves looking at the evidence and trying to find and list these anomalies. And that's what I've seen. That's what you've done, and you've come to a conclusion. If you are wrong, well, it won't be because you've been dishonest in terms of your search for the truth of the matter.
Sure.
Whereas, again, you've put your face there. We know your name. We're dealing with faceless, nameless characters. And even if it was all a fact, even if he was right and you were wrong about everything, you would have had damn good reason for your suspicions, and I'm sure you'd hold up your hands immediately if you proved it categorically. But again, yeah.
I mean, like I say, I'll say my position again. My view is based on totally and utterly his observations claims at 18 miles or 19 miles. And I've got my own observations at 30, which is nearly double. And it shows very little to no curve whatsoever. So I knew that Soundly was showing something wrong. I didn't know why or how or what he was doing or how it was done. I knew nothing about it. I just knew that it was wrong. Now, Soundly claims that there's curve at 18 miles. I'm sorry, but there is no curve at 18 miles. It's minuscule, but the amount of curve you showed, I stand by my original point, that my original comment I made on the first video I ever saw, so we live on a basketball, do we? Because that's exactly what you're showing. You're showing that we live on a small ball, and it isn't the case. It's supposed to be that difficult that we can't even see it. So
in his defense, he's saying it's a big ball.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got like flat Earth math.
That's all you have.
You got flat Earth math saying that it's that big that it's really difficult to detect. Yet Soundly's done it at 18 miles. 18 miles. It's ridiculous. Soundly. You admit that you're a NASA shill. You're a faceless warrior. You've got a monetized account. That means you've got the motive to tell lies to pass information off as real when it's not. The reality is you're capitalizing on stupid ballers that can't realize that your evidence is fake, and also on the flat earthers that don't have the skills, time, or the money, or the skill, or the knowledge or know-how to work it out. So the reality, and we're not letting you in, not because we're scared, but because you're a baller, and right now this contentious issue is hot potatoes. So you can't come in, because the reality is you'll just pass the link round and it'll get sniped. So you can't come in just yet. You can come in towards the end.
Unless he goes on camera. If he goes on camera, I'd say he would be welcome in, but
I would agree. If he went on camera, I would let him in as well.
I think a change in name, since we've I sort of call it myself, and I don't know very much about it, but I do at the same time. I think a change in name is calling for. So how about from soundly to unsoundly, maybe?
Fraudly's better. I prefer fraudly.
Oh well, okay. Well, that's stronger in the same vein, I guess. But yeah, what can you do?
The fact that he's put the word shill on his icon just says it all for me. It's like, if you say that, I mean, yeah, I get why you're doing it, but the reality is you may as well put the word fucking, I don't know, I was going to say paedophile or rapist, but I'm not going to use those words. But you're basically admitting to the world that you're a shill. I mean, why would you do that? It's ridiculous.
So Billy Williams is saying, so you just gonna let Anthony call people liars without them defending themselves?
Well, he can defend himself, but right at the end of the hangout, otherwise he'll end up getting passed around and sniped.
Or he can show his face. I'll go with that.
Well, it's going to be a while yet till about
I agree,
2
Billy.
a.m.,
Billy,
so.
If he's prepared to show his face on camera, yeah, he can come on and he'll not do it then. But unless he shows his face, then he's a shill, a self-confessed shill that nobody really wants in the chat, because he'll pass the link around. Because we know that once the link gets passed around, I mean, P-Mars ends up in chat for no reason, and he doesn't get the link. So we know that the links get passed around. No, Jane, we're not going to pass the link to any ballers until we're basically ready to be sniped.
Yeah.
Gem, dishonest Anthony. No, just sensible.
No, it's a matter of the hangout's been sniped 3 times because we tried to make it an open discussion with people like yourselves. And it didn't work out because people like yourselves can't be trusted, because guess what happens? It gets sniped, and you've already proven it 3 times when we've tried to have this hangout. So therefore, your ass can just keep on sitting until we're ready to say, we've had enough of what we got to say. If you guys want to make it open at that point, fine. Snipe yourselves, not us.
And Billy Williams says, Anthony Riley, don't fucking lie. Soundly has never sniped a hangout. I never said Soundly had sniped a hangout. I said he would pass the link around, because that's what happens. I mean, the fact that PMARS ends up in hangouts when Gem Panda ends up on the chat is testament to the fact that links do get passed around. So it's just been normal. You've never once passed the link around. Maybe you haven't, but is it worth risking it when we're all like, you're in chat now, so it's like we've got your attention. You're able to speak freely. You are hogging the chat line. We are talking and communicating with you, but you can't come on because Gem's in chat and you're in chat, and we don't trust ballers to pass the link around, especially while there's hot potatoes being passed around. It's just not going to happen unless you put your face on the camera, and I think that's fair. I've got my face on.
Or Jeremy, for that matter.
Yeah, Gem's dodgy as fuck. I like Gem as a person, but he's a dick.
Wendy like saying, Jamie, you can open a separate hangout with this Soundly. He doesn't need to be in the hangout that is being broadcast now. Well, like you were saying, I could come in right at the very end.
Yeah, I like Good Times for All's comment there. The definition of stupid would be to allow you in and not expect to get sniped. How true. I mean, it looks like PMARS is knocking around in chat as well. I've just seen something with PMARS in.
Yeah.
Troll Fee Hunter IMP Mars.
Can I interject for a second? Just listening to all of this. Now, Soundly claims that he has never passed the link. What you have been saying is actually, like you said, a hot potato. If you let him on and it gets sniped, it just reinforces what you've been saying. If he gets on and he snipes this, it means what you guys have been saying is correct. And also, never let him on again.
The problem is, if we do that in a hangout that's been this productive, if it was just some random fucking hangout where some guy didn't get caught as fuck with stupid shit, you could say, sure, no problem. Let him on, it disappears, it gets buried with all these other hangouts. But when you have a long session and you have a lot of people viewing, and it's going to be one of the videos that has a shitload of views, the first thing they want to do is snipe it while it's young and
Absolutely.
get it buried with the rest of them. So we're not going to let that happen.
Absolutely.
So if it was just some random fucking hangout, absolutely, sure, let them prove they're fucking dickheads. The reason we've got sniped 3 times and they're out for more is because they got caught with their fucking pants down and they got caught with it hard. And I'm not even a fucking flat
was it
earther.
not
I've
just
never
twice?
fucking agreed
I
like
don't
this
know.
with these guys ever. I've been around over 10 fucking months talking in this shit, and I've never once agreed with the fucking flat earth guys on like, hey, you fucking caught the Glovers and you caught them fucking hard and they're fucking sucking nut. And this is the first time I've seen it in a hangout, and I would hate to see this hangout get sniped by these guys.
I agree.
Okay, next suggestion would be ignore what's going on with Soundly and get back to topic and make this a high quality video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other good thing to notice is that right now we've got Gem, we've got P Mars, we've got Soundly, plus all the people that are watching, the likes of, I don't know, there's going to be other ball earthers out there watching, and we know damn well they're watching and they're listening and they're waiting for that link to get shared accidentally. And you know it's good when it's like that, because
Because when we saw that time with the P Mars, and it was just there watching every slightest thing.
Look, it's good when P Mars won't fucking rebroadcast it on his stupid ass channel with Trojan horse shit because he knows they're getting fucked right now. That's the reality of it. He has his channel up, it's going right now. It ain't showing any of this kind of stuff because it's not in their benefit. That's when you really know it's good.
So also put shout out for the trolls.
Yeah, shout out to all the fucking dickhead trolls. Now, I ain't got more to say on any of this stuff because this is your guys' baby, but I will, just because we already caught this guy one time, if you want to give me what he says he found curvature at, I will start doing some fucking math and seeing if it's even fucking doable to compare curvature or compare angles compared to flat versus curve at the height he was at.
Will you bring 1.618 into your calculations, Aaron?
I do. Nice. I also bring the mathematical constant of E in order to get my infinite that is going toward the center, which is how you take what you would consider 1 in a ratio of a ball for its radius as it matches to I, which is the non-Euclidean geometry of the number you have on pi, because it's basically an imaginary number for pi because it is no whole number.
It doesn't work for me anymore, man, because it's applying fantasy to reality or reality to fantasy.
Well,
math is fantasy, the sphere Earth is fantasy. Math can't define 0. They won't define 0 or infinity. Yet it's used.
They're both.
I was just going to say, use a part of their calculations toward defining reality. Now, how can that be if you're using undefined terms to define?
So then you can't define reality, then, can you?
No, but I'm saying it matches observation, right? Like Anthony was talking the other day. He's supposed to only see 18 miles at this elevation, and he's seeing 30 or 29 to 30. And guess what? If you times that 18 by 1.618, which is round off of your golden ratio, guess how far you're supposed to see? Exactly that. Why is it that number? Well, if you take a globe and you say they're supposed to have that 34 degrees and you actually put it into a decimal calculation.
You're supposed to see what on a sphere, is that?
What's that?
You said you're supposed to see on a sphere you're talking about, is that?
Yes, I'm saying that's
not a reality though. That's a fantasy. So you're implying.
Let me describe it better. On the globe, your current forced on you theories says that atmospheric refraction is happening at the horizon to 34 degrees, right? And you have a radiant you have your radius of a circle, and you've gone so far on it, and you have so much curvature downward. And if you bring that sun back up to that 34 degree angle, however much you curve down based on how far it is and what your height is, and then you reverse the curve of that, and you say the Earth is actually going upward, not downward at that ratio, and then you say, I'm going to have light coming at you at that same a ratio that is going downward at a maximum of that from a location, and then subtract the Earth's radius out of it because it's already that much higher above you from its angle that it's coming in. You're seeing shit at exactly the golden ratio, which is exactly what we observe, which is what Anthony observed. And I'm saying, why is the golden ratio seen everywhere in nature? Maybe we're matching what light's actually fucking doing. Maybe the reason a snail shell does it at that thing, maybe the reason the nose on your face, the lips on your mouth, the way your eyes are, the reason we see that as beautiful is because that's the difference between the atmospheric refraction we can't prove if the Earth is going down versus the ratio the light would have to be to match observations if it was going up.
Listen, guys, Nummy Num, the guy that I was in chat with, he's on now on Skype. I can pass him a link if you want to speak to him and just ask him questions. He's totally sound. You can trust him with the link.
I don't mind, man. This is informal.
Cool.
And I'm not saying light always bends down, all right? It does technically in my model, like, yeah, it would be bending down, but because you have an exponential going into the center with the mathematical constant of E, you would end up where if it comes off a location at an angle that is above where that ratio would allow it to dip down, it would come out level, or it would start bending upward. So light, at least it would look to us to be bending upward, even though it would still have a constant bend.
When you look over water, Ireland, when you look over water, are you aware of the mirrored layer that sets up each and every time, especially the further you look over water? Are you aware of the mirrored water layer, especially when it's light?
Like a reflection in the water?
No, it's an actual mirrored layer. As you look out and you see a false horizon, it used to be my old avatar. We have our vision is limited, but we're also dealing with water, which
horizon haze.
Yeah, no, it's more than that. We're also dealing with water, as we know, is very reflective in the first place. But as we're looking over great distances, this mirrored layer sets up. So it's like you have an apparent horizon at about maybe 5-6 miles, whatever you want to say that. But beyond that, this mirrored layer, as you're looking over water at such an acute angle, especially when there's sunlight involved, this literal mirrored layer, which can sometimes, depending on the contrast that's set up, what object you're looking at what distance, can be miles thick. But because of the acuteness of the angle and the viewing apparatus, which is your eyes generally, this is what it appears to us as, where it is actually a literal mirrored layer. So are you aware of that? You're not.
No, man. I don't know what I don't know it known by that name. I know what I look at. Like I said, I grew up right by the ocean.
I don't know how to explain it.
Those islands are only about 45 minutes from me, so I've looked at the ocean.
Well, if you're not aware of that, then you won't be able to understand what I'm going to say next, because light is always observer dependent. As I'm looking dead ahead, I'm going to be looking at obviously a different angle than if I'm looking to my side. So if I'm looking over at vast distances, I'm going to be looking at this mirrored layer at different angles. So if there's apparent curvature, that's all it is. It's apparent curvature. And if you don't know what the mirrored water layer is, you don't have to cast your imagination too.
Let me put it like this: if I type in mirrored water layer in a search engine right now, what's going to come up?
Okay,
I do it, and I go what, and it's nothing when it comes to it, nothing. So I understand what you're trying to talk about, but as far as this being a known definition to people, it's not. So if you're going to use it as if you don't know this word that I'm using that is not used by everybody else, maybe you just made it.
It's been talked about a lot, and you've been around town, so it has been talked about.
Yeah, but it's been talked about.
Can I interrupt for just? May I interrupt? This is off topic, but Jamie, Issa somehow got accidentally banned out of the chat.
Yeah, I just unbanned them.
Thank you.
I understand what you're talking about. I understand there's that hazy, foggy, reflective thing going on right at the horizon. But as far as knowing it being called this mirrored water layer thing, right. I don't know what you're talking about.
Jamie, I didn't. Hang on. Yeah, I didn't hear this. Jamie, I didn't.
Never heard called that.
Okay, guys, listen. Just let me intersect a sec. This is a valid conversation, but right now we've got Nummy Num in, and I think we should use this time because he's been to Slice Barcane's hangout and listened to what they've claimed as the debunk. So can we go over the debunk side of this this thing first?
Sure. Give me 30 seconds, Anthony, please.
Sure.
You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, quick 30 seconds. This is the apparent water line as we see here. There's a mirrored layer which goes from here all the way across, right? Sorry, that should be it.
Yeah, close enough. Straight line where the reflection happens.
Yeah, that's everything beyond that layer. Yeah, I'll only be a second, right? Everything beyond that layer, that's a reflected layer. That's reflected water. That could be many miles in distance, and it depends on the contrast behind. So when you're looking, this is always going to be in effect. Now, my point is, when you're looking directly ahead, you're going to see something slightly different than if you're looking way to the left or way to the right. That mirrored layer will still be there, but you'll get more of a curvature sort of feel to things, I guess. But you have to take these things into account, is what I'm trying to say. And if you don't, you're going to get lost in la la land.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is I'm actually stating that when I'm talking about this light having this bend and you having to subtract the earth bend out of it going the other way, it almost looks flat to us all the time. That's the reason I think it looks flat. It's because it's at a ratio.
That sounds pretty convenient, to be honest.
Well, it's not about convenience. I just find it fucking convenient that it matches the golden ratio, like right fucking there to within less than a degree.
You're not taking reality into account.
Some random
fucking math number. That is a ratio that we find throughout nature like none other.
Look,
Like,
I
can
just
say
explained.
something to this topic. Like, you were looking for a word, you wanted to look up what this mirrored surface effect is, and it's called specular reflection.
Right.
Just so if you want, you said you couldn't type that mirrored water into Google and find out about it, but if you type in specular reflection, you'll get a description of the phenomenon that he's talking about.
Well, I thought Ireland might have heard of it as well, since he's been around for so long, and it has been.
I've never heard it called that. Like, what aspect of this are you talking about?
Okay, so let's
layer. It is a massive layer, and this explains the sunset. I've explained the sunset and the sunrise 100 times.
I agree.
This is exactly what if you're looking at a mirror on the ground, right? Again, you have to scale up, but if you're looking and your angle is fixed, you're going to see a certain fixed reflection. This is what's just going to occur to your eyes. Now, as an object moves in and out of your zone, whatever, and this reflective zone, especially when you're looking over water, this is what happens. The last thing you'll see will be that reflected end of the sun as it moves away, and this is how sunset occurred. Same with sunrise, it's just reverse. So if you don't take this mirrored water layer, or what did you call right? I never heard of that term for it myself, but if that's the same meaning, and this layer can be many miles in length, depending on
you can see it on like still waters of a big lake that go like fucking forever.
Right, but we only need to look in a puddle to see how reflective water is, or over a lake in a mountain scenic location. Or
Pete, listen, Jamie, do us a favor, enable slow mode. Chat's running too quick because we're being trolled to death. So just turn.
How do I do that?
In advance, if you go back into into Creator Studio and then go into the Hangout that's live, you can edit it and then just enable slow mode. It'll just give us the mods chance.
Just give a few wrenches out and then just tell them only to ban people who are spamming one letter or one number over and over until you get rid of those spammers. Or just do it yourself if you really want.
Just enable slow.
So go to edit.
Yeah, go into edit on the Hangout that's on now, and then you can go into advanced settings in the tab, and then in there you can enable slow mode and turn the seconds to say 5, 4.
I'll do that.
Because that'll just control the spamming that's now. But you can tell that it's an interesting comment because the reality every 60 seconds. No, turn 60 seconds down to about 10, 5. That'll just stop them being pricks.
It says 10 to 60 seconds. That's quite
slow.
I thought it was like 20 seconds or something.
Yeah, make it 5. Make it 5 or 10 seconds.
Well, how do you do that? I'll have to go back.
Yeah, it should be on the same page right next to it.
You start presenting me the slide, Jamie.
All right.
And then let's get nummy numbing because we don't have nummy num on very often.
I thought that geezer wasn't. I thought there is nummy num there. Okay?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
So nummy, you've been over to listen to Slice Arcane's apparent debunking. What was the points that they tried to debunk the comments on? What did they say?
Well, I've only listened to the first 25 minutes of it because you asked me to listen to it, and then you came and asked me to chat 25 minutes later. So, but it seems that from what they've developed so far, that they're developing an argument along the lines of that the parallax was somehow dependent on the towers behind the tower that we were talking about. Remember, and he's quoting you as saying that your claim had something to do with the towers behind the tower that we were talking about, right? And then so they've kind of changed the goalposts, or it's a bit of a straw man argument so far. Like I say, I've listened to 25 minutes of a 122-minute video. But it seems like this is the thesis that they've developed for over the course of this 20 minutes, that they're trying to hone in on what your precise argument is, and then they're claiming it's, well, at least a different argument. I don't know what you said to them, Skype, but it's not the argument I was making. I don't think it's the argument that you intended to make. I think maybe they've misparaphrased something that you've said and tried to.
It won't be a misparaphrase. It'll be a deliberate misinterpretation. They do that a lot to try and discredit anybody that does something. They'll deliberately misinterpret it, debunk the misinterpretation, claim a victory, and then it's just bullshit. They do it all the time.
They're trained sophists. These guys are absolute professional weasels. It's amazing.
Yeah, professional weasels.
I find it fascinating to see how they work, actually, because it's like, you have to learn to stave off this is how legal systems developed from, assholes like this, right?
Nummy, listen, Ireland noticed something on Google Earth that we didn't
Can I just finish my summary of what I was going to say there?
Sorry, yeah, sure, go on.
Okay, so they're trying to corner you on some claims, and then they're also claiming that we owe them $1 million each, because we said that we'd like to bet, but whatever.
That's okay, I'll write them out.
But you know what? It's funny because I was listening to, I'm not sure who it was earlier, talking about how these guys are actors, these guys are shills, which is a point that I've expressed to you in private when when we've been sort of discussing this in the off time. And I don't know, just listening to the Sparkane, and he's talking to, I guess, Sean Hufford, I'm not too familiar with, but it really has this kind of like smarmy, ostentatious gloss to it that I'm just like, these guys don't even mean what they're like. It's like, they're really putting it on. But, like, of course, they're quick to respond. And basically, yeah, they've shifted the goalposts by claiming that you in private said to Sean Hufford that our claim had something to do with the towers behind. But I made it very clear, and so anyone can go back and listen to that video, that I made it perfectly clear that the parallax was we were only talking about that first tower, that the north and south facing supports of that tower where the claim was resting.
This is what was said to Sean Hufford. Okay, Sean said, since the camera in Soundly's video isn't 2 feet from the first tower, it's not a very good straw man. And I said, it isn't straw man, it's directly relevant. He said, get ready to make those monthly payments to back up that $1 million challenge. And I said, the point of crossover is the same point that everything else crosses over. So it's the point of crossover. And then time went by and he says, and debunked.
Right. So he cornered you on the everything else crosses over. So, because that's what he was saying in the video. He's like, oh, now the claim, he's like, I'm trying to figure out their claim. And now the claim, everything else has to cross over at that point.
You can look at Soundly's first video, just his own video evidence.
Yeah, I
look at the first video and you see the legs of that tower, right? As it gets as close as possible where you can still see which side the legs are on versus where those towers go down. Compared to his second video, he did them backward. He has the one that's further away where you're looking at the inside versus the one that's closer that you're looking on the outside, on the wrong side.
Yeah.
On the wrong side. The one leg is the leg that is on that shows the inside of a post versus the outside shouldn't be on the right. It should be on the left according to the other fucking video he posted of the same damn thing. And Google confirms it. So who cares about the fucking rest of it? His own video shows, if you look at his 2 videos that he posts clearly, one shows that inside would be at this point as you're looking down at this point, and then on the next video, it's the opposite.
I'm glad I asked you to make the call, Arlen.
Well, that's an interesting point as well. But in any case, it seems that they're using overt sophistry to try to debunk this thing, and they're trying to corner some. They've grabbed onto something. They've latched onto a statement you made in a casual conversation with Sean Hufford.
What they latch onto though? Their legs on the wrong fucking side from the.
Well, I'm just explaining what I'm just explaining what they were doing in their chat because that's what Anthony asked me to talk about.
Yeah, they're gonna.
To be honest, I don't really care what they're talking about. I'm just.
They might as well have turned the fucker upside down for all it fucking matters, and then try to go. We can disprove this other thing, even though the upside down part's just sitting there. They fucking flipped the image accidentally, or whatever the fuck they didn't realize they did.
Listen,
just after coming in, giving me say. You've been here. You've had your say.
Nummy, listen. They're not latching onto something I said privately. What they're doing is moving the goalposts and they're trying to misrepresent it because it's the only way that they can claim a victory by literally manipulating the evidence and making.
Yeah, we're just seeing them writhe and squirm like weasels that they are.
Yeah, they are. That's exactly what they're doing.
So, like at a certain point, where I don't want to I'm not really willing. If they're not going to represent the argument fairly, I don't think we need to. I don't think I want to keep responding to more bullshit. I think that we've buried it.
I think we made the point clear. It was the fact that they didn't cross over. That them things have to cross over because they were in very close proximity to each other, and they cannot not cross over.
And they also claim that there is parallax, and there's clearly not. Remember, we watched all the gap. None of the gaps close on any of those things, or none of the gaps change on any of those things. There's
to be fair,
zero parallax.
To be fair, Jem Panda's gone and measured it, and he says that there is pixels worth of parallax, and I'm not convinced because I haven't measured it, but if he says it must be true. So what I would say,
there's shift in pixels, and that relates back to the video that I showed in relation where that they do change the squeeze and they squeeze and the opposite of squeeze the elements of the thing using those splines, but that nonetheless all of the space that's represented is unchanged, right? Because I'm claiming that they've used this thing that you take a 2-dimensional paper cutout image and then create the illusion of 3 dimensions, and there's a little bit of squeeze, but it's not at the same time. There's nothing that actually disappears or changes relative to the other stuff.
I also think that they're failing to notice the fact that however Soundly did apparently get that image, he would need to be on a magic carpet. He couldn't have done it from his car because he has to be at zoom and he can't get a smooth image image at zoom, even if he had like a gyroscopic gimbal, I don't think you'd get it as smooth as what he did get it. And that to me it cries animation, because you can't, I mean, you know yourself from using cameras and zooming, you cannot get a state. That's why we have tripods, because we cannot hold it steady enough. And if you're in a moving car that's got inertia and bumps and crevices and creaks and all that on the road, there is just no way that he's going to get that kind of steadiness. So that in itself is another elephant in the room that they all ignore. They turn around.
That's the thing, though. There's three issues with the whole thing, right? We found three, straight up three. You can't do that with a camera like that. The parallax ain't fucking right, and they got the leg on the wrong side. We're not even going to address the leg on the wrong side.
The leg on the wrong side.
We're going to look for the one that's the easiest to fight, try to talk about it, convince a handful of their people that we just don't know what we looked at, and move on from there. That's all they're going to do. They're going to look at which of these three pieces of evidence that all say you guys are fucking full of shit is the easiest to push back against. They will ignore the other, and they will push back just enough to go, okay, well, but we're so fucking smart, and they'll keep going. That's it.
That's what I'm saying, Ireland. Who is the jury in this case? I mean, this is what I'm saying. Who are we appealing to here? And I'll just say, I mean, you've obviously put some hours into this sort of stuff, but this is exactly the natures of the people you're dealing with here. They've been doing this. They've been doing this, for years. So the more you engage with them, the more they will like that, because they'll take up your time and argue with every single point. Whereas you've proved the case to yourself, and I guess you've realized.
We're not in a legal court, so it's up to each person to decide for themselves, right? And that they'll come in and try to provoke us into allowing them to present to be the arbiters of the argument, right? But that's why I'm saying at a certain point we just have to cut this off, and
you have to call it. You have to call it.
Should we talk to weasels? Like I'm 100% sure that Soundly is a liar, a weasel, a fraud. So I'm unless there's a good maybe Geo Streber's arguments, I felt okay, they're good enough to be addressed. But this other thing, when I'm going in Sly Sparkane's thing and I'm listening, I'm just saying, they're misparaphrasing you in order to create a straw man, in order to change the goalpost. Both changing.
I'm not a flat earther, right? So let's say you guys, nobody changed fucking opinion. I didn't change opinion. They didn't change opinion. You guys didn't change opinion. Okay. So what I saw, what I'm looking at when I looked into this myself, based on what was brought up by Anthony, I just go, well, for the first time in all these fucking months since last summer, I can finally say, holy shit, Flat Earth gave me direct fucking evidence of these guys being phony ass fucking fakers that I was able to substantiate, back up, and go, fuck yeah, with my own fucking investigation. I've never had that happen. So I like you guys a shitload fucking better than I did yesterday.
And you learned about this
out here, I now support more because of you.
That's very encouraging, and I like I say, this is who the intended audience of that video is for. It's not. We're not. The intended audience is not these fucking trolls who have an agenda, right? It's to just also to share this kind of mindset with people, about how to look at, how to really critically engage with, that you have to really critically engage with claims and materials that are being presented in this way, right? And so I mean, I think it's a pretty big victory actually, because it's a kind of closed case at this point, and it's not often that you can actually, like, these guys are clever, they're good shills, they're good at it, and it's not often that you can present such an absolute black and white evidence like that against them.
It's the best evidence I've seen since I've even looked into any of this stuff that wasn't directly against NASA's fakery. NASA fakery, we find it all the time, but actual against one of these guys who comes around and spews this shit in these channels and listens and talks in it, this is the best I've ever fucking seen. So good work.
Sweet, man. Thank you.
And I've got to be honest, all the credit's got to go to Nummy Num, because he was the one that approached me. I don't know what was the reason why you approached me. Did you see me say something that you thought, hang on a minute, I'm going to say, why did you send me a message?
Well, I saw your chat. The first time I saw you, I just happened to catch the live thing with Mick West, and I'd kind of been irritated with Mick West, not even because of his calculate. Well, I kind of had the sense that calculator was, it needed further investigation, but I just caught your chat with Mick West, and I was impressed that how you held your ground in that argument, and I upon further appraisal of what you were saying, I was like, oh yeah, that's a really interesting and good point, and then that led me to like a few days of reading about refraction and kind of getting a better handle on that topic, and then I was just following your chats, and I could see you're getting trolled to death, right? And so I don't have a channel, and I've had some reservations conversations about I haven't been a flat earther for very long either, only 4 or 5 months, and so I'm kind of a little bit green, but I've been moving through the material pretty rapidly in terms of advancing my understanding of the relevant arguments and topics and points, and so I just wanted to contribute that to you because I thought you would be interested in what I had to say, that where your conversation that you were having on your channel, like the way your channel was evolving at the time, just the point you were at made me think, oh, this would be he would be interested, he would benefit from what I'm saying. So I just sort of threw it out there because I thought,
you keep doing it, man. Debunk everybody and everything you can possibly find on every side. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah, I think I like Anthony's approach in that I don't think he's looking for yes men to nod and agree with everything he says, and I respect what you're saying, Ireland, in that sense. It's like debunk everything. Like I just treat information as information. But I try not to, I do my best to not be biased towards flat earth stuff, and I do think there's some shitty flat earth stuff out there for sure. But I think that it's guys like Anthony who are just doing sincere research into topic that I prefer to appreciate, or I prefer to watch and support. Right. So, I'm a little bit new to this, and I think that's why it's just sort of a coincidence that I caught your stuff when I did, Anthony, and it just made sense. And then, it's kind of developed nicely actually in the last week.
I mean, last night
you've helped me, you've teased this out of me as well, like some of these developing these points.
Well, even last night when we had a dress rehearsal, we went through some points, and some points I was like, that's a really strong point, you need to make that. And then there were other points that I said, no, that's not a strong point, let's not dwell on that one, because it creates an argument, and then the minute they create an argument, then it becomes 50-50 at best. And then there were other points that I just said, no, you've got that one wrong, look, this is where it was taken from. One particular thing where he said that it looked like the imagery didn't even exist, where it was recorded from didn't exist, and when we tried to work out where it must be from, we realized that it probably did exist, so we dismissed it. And that's why, because I wasn't having a go at him in any way, and I've done it with Ranty as well. Ranty's done stuff and I've said, no, listen, that's not right. And you have to critically analyze. I know that Nathan's analyzed stuff from flat earthers and got criticized for it, but we have to self-vet ourselves, because the last thing that either of us want to do is make an assertion that's totally and utterly wrong. I mean, I don't mind it being wrong, but a novice stupid mistake, we don't want that to come out as a mistake. And that's why we had we had a hangout that was put out there to the ballers to see what the critique would have been, so that we could fine-tune the arguments. And in doing that, we realized that that BMX bike appearing out of nowhere is ridiculous. The bloke walking in the foreground, he's not really there. That didn't happen. He's put that in there to make it look like it's a real scene. The line of
here's my real question, right? From a non-flat Earth globe person watching all this, just from what I've seen this entire week, because I'm getting my Pete Shea cap on right now. I know Pete's going to wonder about it.
Anthony, but look for Sex in the Clouds somewhere, will you?
No, but here's my thing. Like, I was watching Flat Earth having a real fucking hard time lately. Like, even before the troll shit, they waited till they saw it on the low point, and then they attacked fucking hard, and shit got fucked up, and we're still watching some today. And the timing of this victory, which I've been waiting to see a victory like this for a long fucking time, just happens to happen like within a couple days of all that fucking like Flat Earth taking a big fucking downhill fucking shit brick. And I'm like, now I'm sitting in here, is there anybody in here that's not a shill? Is this all a setup? Look at this fucking huge ass bounce back. The timing is just too convenient. Damn it, Pete. Look how you got me thinking.
I'm not a shill.
The timing's fucking crazy.
But don't trust no one, in my opinion. I mean, like, you'll establish your own rapport with individual people, and you have to kind of go with what feels right. But, I mean, there's no absolutes in terms of just random people that you're talking to on the internet,
I mean, listen, what gives their game away, really, look, no honest person, even if you believed in the ball model, but you were moving forward honestly, you have to deal with information and evidence as it comes, as honestly as you can. Yeah. No honest person looking at what you have presented will say that there's no anomalies there. There's no problem. This is exactly what you should expect under these circumstances. It's obnoxious, and you're not dealing in the same terms. And this is what we come to realize anyway at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, and I think that we really succeeded in just showing them for what weasels that they are, in terms of like, it's really, they really are just starting to look rather desperate at this point. If you go watch that Sly Spark Gang thing, it's actually kind of pretty much an indictment statement of their genuine their sincerity.
Yeah.
You know,
and they're all banded together as well, so they're all going to sync together.
They're a team. They're a team. I think like if you look up like U.S. Navy Cyber Command and things like that, I suspect that this is what we're actually seeing here. You know, where they have teams of disinformation operatives that work online, and of course it's undercover. They present themselves as this concerned citizen, good Samaritans trying to help us retards back into, get us back in line or whatever. But they use the trick in the book of sophistry. They try to get you emotional, they try to heat you up, and then they just do this soft, textbook soft. I think they're sitting there with like a phone book of soft.
You're right. And they're intercommunicating then, but the point is that, on our own personal journey, we have to realize that every step of our journey is catered for and taken care of. So look, in one sense, it's easy to identify these ballers our bowler antagonists as actors, because on every conspiracy, they sing from the same hymn sheet. So you soon get to realize, look, you could spend ages of time just, going along with them, but beyond a certain point, you just say, fuck it, they're liars, proven liars, and then you move on. But here's the point that we have the ones that are harder to spot are the pretenders, the infiltrators in the flat Earth movement, and I'm sorry to say again, it's infiltrated to a massive extent. And we have to at least realize that first of all, or at least consider that possibility and do necessary investigations, and then decide where we're going to go from there ourselves, what we're going to do from there ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. And this is a strategic thing, right? Like they're implementing strategic.
Exactly.
They're implementing a strategy. So we individually have to be strategic because we don't have this benefit of this underlying network or whatever. And
this is where I say don't get stuck in the minutiae. What they don't want us to do is figure out the bigger picture. I mean, I for me personally, and I know it's a different format, and I can speak about that in my own hangout, but the North Centre is paramount. The dodo here is an important issue as well, because it connects to the grander scheme of things. They don't want you delving into those areas.
Well, what I'm glad to have revealed with this as well is that showing the level of effort and sophistication that goes into these hoaxes or this disinformation, because that's what people really need to be aware of what they're truly up against in terms of the nature of the beast. Exactly. But in a way, but there is some benefit to it in that they make you got to use these guys because they can make good sparring partners, because just this little in the sort of back and forth that Anthony and I had with these guys over this subject, we managed to really refine these arguments and kind of make it final. And so just realize how just don't let it outlive its usefulness, I suppose. Like, don't let them. You just have to completely detach from them emotionally, and then it'll all be clear.
But they're a necessary part. Num in a sense. I'm not too comfortable saying num, but that's okay for the minute. What was I going to say now? See, num. See, that threw me off immediately. But fuck, we definitely have to be aware of the arena.
Have a more respectable presentation. This is just the default of my YouTube account that I started like 10 years ago, and I never imagined that I'd be even interacting with anyone.
All right, so I got to ask, num, how long have you and Soundly been friends?
I know very little about him. I just saw that. Where did I don't know.
He was in the kitchen. He's your roommate. You guys set this all up. Come on, this is almost too convenient for me now. I'm getting worried.
More conspiracy.
There's somebody in chat called Off Kilter Concepts saying, "Hey, room, I am on a Discord server that is discussing flat Earth. Mind if I drop a URL with a public invite?"
You can drop you can drop the URL if you want with a public invite. But at the minute, I think most people will be interested to hear what's being said with nummy num. I'm thinking ranty rant.
That's just a Glober trying to get people away from this topic right now.
It probably is, to be honest.
Yeah, ranty kind of provoked me a little yesterday, because that thing about that parallax was kind of a last minute thing. But yeah, he expressed to me that he thought that I was going to lose the argument today.
Well, he said he wasn't convinced, didn't he?
Yeah. And he said, "Oh, didn't you see that new Soundly video? And I think that's going to give you a hard time or whatever." And so I looked at that, and then gave me the instant flat. I instantly flashed on, holy shit, there's the real parallax problem. It's not the bird. I mean, the bird is already a severe issue, but it made me see that, you just have to, it made me understand that parallax that we presented in today's argument. So yeah, like I'm just saying a little bit of adversity can
that's what I was going to say. I've said this as well. When you come into flat Earth, you have to be challenged like this because it's such a serious issue. So you have to know that the Earth is flat and stationary, and you can use these characters. Then, of course, it's only via experience that you come to realize the extent of the nature of this opposition, I guess, if you will. Yeah. But yeah, I often said as well, I should definitely take up chess, Anthony. Maybe you didn't give it enough of a chance, but I think you have the type of mind that you would appreciate a good chess game. But every kind of Sherlock Holmes needs his Moriarty in a sense, and I've often said that this is the individual's puzzle that's there to be figured out.
Sure, yeah, it's a
different layers at every step.
It's an initiation process.
In a sense. So I don't think it does too good to spend too much time on these antagonists, these actors, because that's all they want. They want.
Well, I think
I'm gonna have to head out. I'm gonna just say goodbye to you guys. Thanks for having me and Jamie.
Thank you for
your good work, man. Seriously, this was one of the most entertaining times I've seen on a hangout in a very long fucking time, if not ever. So,
yeah.
I wonder what else you've been lied to about Ireland.
Oh, sorry, I keep talking over you. Thanks for your contribution, Ireland. I like what you had to say. I'm going to look more into that other point as well, because it seems to be a pretty interesting angle on it.
Yeah, the leg's in the wrong places. We hadn't spotted that, but that's a really, really, really big problem for him.
Yeah,
that's part of the fun when you're as too obsessed with this shit as I am, and you're looking for every little piece of everything. I thought I was going to debunk you guys, but I debunked them further. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've been pretty obsessed with this thing since I've been working on it, and I woke up in the middle of the night last night, had a little brainstorm. So I understand.
Well, right on.
Take it easy.
Thanks again. Catch you later. Thanks, Jamie, for the invite, and you guys keep up the good work. You too, Pete.
Yeah, thanks.
Wondering what the fuck they're doing out there.
Oh, Ireland.
Yeah.
Just before you go, I don't know if you've noticed, but when I go into Thingy's chat, IPS, they all go fuck Anthony Riley. I think we need a fuck Soundly comment at the end. Like fuck Soundly.
I'm not allowed an IPS and such, man. I'm not a flat earther, so if they see me put two words, even if it's a good job, I'll get at least muted, if not banned again.
No, he's overacting these days. Himself and Tim and
they're fakes, man. I don't
Texas.
think it, so
I don't know if you heard them talking today.
I'll stick with the fuck Soundly. You got the soundbite right here. Fuck Soundly. His stuff's garbage.
Fuck Soundly.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you called him faulty, and we're dealing with pylons here, did you have faulty towers in mind? Or?
No, I didn't call him faulty. I called him fraudly.
Oh, fraudly. Sorry, man.
But what is that faulty tower? That's a reference to something, right?
It's a sitcom
song, isn't it?
No, it was a series in the UK based around John Cleese being just crazy. Right. It's really funny.
Right, yeah, and it is faulty towers in this case too, right? That's great.
Yeah.
Faulty is a less severe judgment, I suppose, than fraudly. But
yeah, it is fraud though. He's intentionally deceiving with false evidence that he's passing off to be real. So it is fraud.
It is.
Yeah, it's absolute fraud.
It's deception, and it exposes all those then who go along with, and especially if that's a slam dunk that Ireland's after pointing out that you missed there. That's a visual slam dunk, and there's no denying that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we did miss it, but that's why we did the hangout originally, to see what feedback we got from ballers. And GeoStreamer was the one that came on and said, "Hey, ABCD." And then when we look, I was happy to move on, but when we went and looked back at ABCD, literally Nummy just said, "I want to go and look at these. I don't agree with him." And I said, "Well, let's do that, and we'll come back in a day or two," which is exactly what we did. And we brainstormed and see where basically see what other inconsistencies we can find with his evidence. And that bike and the bloke walking, it's like, for me, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, the one that we didn't show was the nest. And in the image that you're looking at, the nest is very low resolution compared to the pylons that are very high resolution. And there's a fuzz around the nest that looks like they've just literally cropped it out of one picture and cropped it into the other picture. And you can see the disparity in the resolution. And it's like, what the fuck? There's no reason for it to be like that. But we didn't even get to it, but it was really good.
Well, there was that shed angle as well, because that's also, we haven't mentioned that, but that's also very strong, in my opinion. And, I think that what they did actually is that they purposely made that vantage point impossible to determine so that they could go either way in case they got cornered on it, right? Like, because you know how there was that problem where you could go up and make the pole flush, but then you'd have to see more of those wire wrappings, or you could go down to see more, or you could go down for it to be above the horizon. And so it's like it's actually totally ambiguous. Like you could never finally determine what the vantage point elevation is. So then you could never judge whether, because like if you could judge the vantage point elevation, then you could say exactly how much of those sheds should be showing. You could hone in on the angular size, but in fact you can't. And then I also showed that GeoStreamer was wrong about the angular size width. So he was wrong about all those things that shed. And I think that shed is actually proof as well, because you could, if you look up the other side, you could see it's the exact same. How could it be the same from both of those angles? It doesn't make sense.
Did they even address that in the Hangout and slides?
No.
I'm surprised because in chat they were saying, oh yeah, it's only like 2.6 degrees. You're not going to see much difference. And I'm like, you are. You're going to see a lot of difference because it's not far away. It's only a couple of kilometers.
Well, what they failed to mention is that how many degrees are you looking at through the lens? If you're zoomed in on a telezoom lens or on a 300 millimeter lens, you're seeing like less than 5 degrees. You're seeing less than 5 degrees of angle relative to the entire 360 around you, right? You understand what I mean by that?
I'd have gone the other way. I'd have said you're seeing a lot more because you zoomed in, more degrees because you zoomed in. It's like it's the application of that article that guy sent to you when he said, you want to read this, dickhead, and you actually read it and it was like, haha, it actually supports me.
No, I mean something else actually. I just mean that like if you say, like of the total degrees that you could look at with the camera, like what percentage is that? And you can look this up, like what's the angle of the P900 when it's fully zoomed in? It's like 1 degree or less, right? Yeah. Like that you're seeing. So then when you get into that, if they say it's like 2, like, they're like, oh, it's only 1 degree, it's only 2 degrees. That's a meaningless statement. That could be a huge difference depending on the viewing angle that's coming through the lens, right? So they're just throwing out what sound like small numbers, right? So they're just trying to just delude they're going for the low-hanging fruit of people who are trying to comprehend it. Maybe they're new to flat earth or something and they're trying to get a handle on, and they just end up going with whoever sounds more confident in what they're asserting or stuff. But
the low-hanging fruit comment, did you hear that from the Tim hangout that I had?
Yeah.
That was a great phrase. I love that one. Low-hanging fruit. I don't mind being a low-hanging fruit. That's fine by me.
Well, you totally fucked that guy up in that conversation.
Yeah, I never said that. Okay, let's just replay it and hear what you did say. And then I played it and he said the exact thing you just denied saying. And I did it a second time. He's like, no. And I was like, come on, let's play it again. He's like,
it becomes apparent that he's just ignoring you, really. Like he's got his script. Yeah. And you're actually coming up with these great rebuffs and he's just like pretending nothing's, like it's not even happening or something.
He counters with about 5 or 6 assertions that he expects me to address. And it's like, hang on, you were just cornered a second ago. You can't come back with like 5 or 6 assertions when you're cornered. Address the point that you're dealing with that you are cornered on, and then we'll come to the 5 or 6 points that you just gish-gashed or gish-galloped toward me.
And he's clearly just sort of like an egomaniac.
Yeah. He thinks I've fallen out. He's fallen out with me because he thinks I've banned him, and I haven't banned him at all.
Well, you should. He's a no good idiot.
You're right. I shouldn't give the guy a time of the day, but I actually quite like him. I think he's quite funny.
Well, in that case, keep him, whatever, if you find it entertaining. But I'm just saying there's no ethical reason to allow that guy, give that guy the time of day if you don't feel like it.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is, and I've said this so many times, I mean, if we're going to relate, at least we know who and what they are, we can learn more about what they won't talk about than what they will. I heard when you and Tim was saying that same stuff 2 years ago. He's just rhetoric, and he just has, as you say, a script in front of him, and he reads the different points off. This is all he's doing, and he'll continue to do as long as you allow him. But yeah, if you're going to interrelate with them, and you're still on your own quest for truth, these people know more than what they're saying. I say they're all flat earth, absolutely. There's none of these people stupid.
Slice Barkane knows there's no curve. I don't believe for a minute he actually thinks that there is a curve. He's got to be a flat earther. Same with flat earth math. He's got to be a flat earther.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. All of them. Jeremy, every one of them.
It's a lot easier to hold up this deception if you know the true answer. I mean, I think it would be the cognitive dissonance would tear their minds apart if they weren't actually sure.
Well, I think I mentioned this to Jamie as well, who's been very quiet tonight, but I mentioned him. The real question with the flat earth now, the big question for all of us is, well, what is real? When flat earth is just the beginning. warming, all these things are minor points. We know the Earth is flat and stationary. Who are we trying to prove it to? These idiots.
Well, I think we're trying to help out. We have to like upkeep the conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
This is for the benefit of people who are honestly interested in the truth about this, who might be coming into this, or people who, I can't thank, the internet and all the people who have made these contributions to Flat Earth enough, because it really does help when you're first introduced to this idea. I watched a few videos here and there over the last year, and I found some of them had me kind of scratching my chin, but none of them really it takes a while for you to kind of process these ideas when they start coming at you. But then it was definitely the locating a sort of higher quality of content that is kind of hidden underneath the Eric Dubai and the rest of those kinds of guys that you really have to kind of dig for. And so I appreciate that people do that, and I think that you got to pay that forward.
Yeah, because I find a lot of the Eric Dubai content. Some of it's kind of hearsay.
Some of it's okay. I mean, there's they kind of give you some. It kind of gets your foot in the door a little, but you do have to dig deeper. And like I say, it's like, if you care about this, if this is important to you, then of course you want to, it's like, who are we trying to convince? Well, we're trying to make sure that we ourselves are correct by having these conversations and also teaming up to deal with some of these counter arguments as well, and to try to do it honestly and intelligently. And that it's just, this thing is just going to get, more and more refined, because it's like, we got to get the word out that Soundly has been exposed as well, because we're just saving a bunch of other people a lot of time, right, dealing with that.
Well, then they'll just roll out somebody else then, won't they?
Well, that they may do that, but got to cross that. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't eliminate the goons that they've got. It helps us too. It's gonna get easier, not more difficult.
Well, I guess and perfectly understandable. People are at different stages within Flat Earth. Some have been here a few months, some have been here a few years. I think ultimately, we know, again, we'll prove to ourselves that the Earth is flat and stationary. So getting involved too much. No, I'm not saying now, for instance, this is a good exposure of their methodologies and I guess their sort of system that they have going. But they've been exposed as well so many different times. I was speaking in a grander sense from the individual's point of view. Where the fuck, we know the Earth is flat and stationary. So then you ask sort of deeper questions or follow-on questions until you come to the bigger questions. And that's one of the questions that I will say is massive for all of us at this stage. What is real? What can we rely on? Can we rely on who? We can't rely on what we've been told. Obviously, we've thrown all the stuff related to the modern scientific truth out, but that leads to so many other questions.
That's something we have to figure out as well, right? There's a kind of like an ontological debate that also has to take place, and this is part of it. Like, how should we interpret how should we judge the validity of sources of information and things like that? And that should always be a kind of open question, I think.
I say that there's always been an end date in mind, and there's a grander puzzle for the individual to solve ongoing. And if you look for that puzzle, you'll be presented with it. But again, it does involve absolutely throwing out everything that we took to be true and real, because it all turns out to be an illusion. This can be an overwhelming thing as well. And again, with people being at different stages of inquiry, I'm sure given enough time, these questions will and needs must present themselves to the individual, and he or she will go about trying to answer them in some sort of a way. So let me just ask before I go, I was thinking it's a guinea pig. Is it in your avatar? What inspires that?
Well, it's a naked mole rat. It's just a strange animal that has some unique peculiarities that fascinated me at one time. I guess around the time I made that, and I guess it's just my face on YouTube now.
He's a good looking chap, though, isn't he?
Wouldn't be a naked mole by any chance.
What's that?
Wouldn't be a naked mole by any chance.
No.
Okay, I have all my clothes on.
You should look up naked mole rats. They're interesting. They're the only mammal that lives in a eusocial setting. Like, they're similar to ants, where they have a queen and only the queen reproduces, and then they have like drones and stuff like that. So they're the only mammal that's evolved along the lines of ants and bees and the eusocial social structures of those kinds of animals.
Well, you didn't say it was a mole then, did you?
It's a naked mole rat.
Mole rat. I thought you said a mole, so that was my joke there. That was
and they spend their entire lives underground. They never
nice.
They never intentionally come to the surface, and they live in these very low oxygen conditions, and because of that they don't feel pain. They don't feel physical pain. They've been studied in order to understand the pain receptor system of mammals more clearly, because they seem to not have any pain response.
Okay, that's a new one on me. Excellent. But when you just mentioned evolution, are you still in that sort of camp, or has that?
Yeah, I guess I just sort of, like I just became a flat earther, and I'm not. I don't have a position on that. Actually, that's just reflexive talking.
So what did you say that just before I go? This what did you call him again?
A naked mole rat.
Mole rat. More MORE, is it?
No, MOLE.
Mole rat. Okay, sorry, man. That's a bit confusing. But
it's a mole rat because they live kind of like moles, but it's actually a rat because I guess, or they call it a rat because it's a true rodent.
So did you say that was evolution? It was a cross between an ant and an elephant or something like that?
No, I just say that, I guess I probably said they evolved along similar lines, or I'm just saying that they live in a similar fashion to ants in the sense that they have, within an ant colony, only one female is reproductive, right? And then they have only a handful of males are reproductive with that female, and then most of the population of animals are sterile and kind of just do work to support the reproductive members of the animal society. And so they're the only mammal that has that social structure. There's a few different, there's ants, bees, termites, wasps, and I think there's actually some kind of bird, I think, that also lives in that way, and so maybe some other kind of sea creatures or something. But so it's something that you see across the different families of animals. But that's something interesting. But it's kind of unimportant to this conversation.
No. That was just by the way. Well, at least your creature exists there. Mine doesn't. On a parting note, I maintain that the dodo never actually exists.
No, that's probably true. I that seems like it's probably the case.
All right, excellent. Well, what I say is encoded within the dodo then is a flat Earth relationship. I won't expand on that too much, but yeah.
Well, I think I can see where you're going with that just from even bringing it up, and that's an interesting. You know what? I'm going to investigate the dodo bird because I.
Oh well, be prepared for. That's what I'm saying to Anthony. This is. I wasn't quite sure just how significant the dodo was. Whether it was just a superficial thing in the sense that once you discover the dodo and all the clues leading to the dodo by all of these different artists and agencies. Did that just bring you to the Gleason map where you see the cockerel represented, and then hence the flat Earth? So once you got there, then you could go along and investigate Eric Dubé or Mark Sargent and leave the dodo behind? Or was it a case of once you got to the Gleason's map, then you found the dodo and you went further with that? Well, I wasn't sure for a while, but I absolutely now I'm settled on the second option there. So it's not just a pointer to the flat Earth itself, it's an integral puzzle, which is flat Earth and beyond. So
well, that's a very cool idea. That sounds very interesting to me, actually. Like I like that kind of thing, and I haven't thought about the dodo bird in probably 20 years. That just hasn't come up. So thank you for reminding me.
What's the first this is how deep it goes. What's the first thing as a child in general? As a child, you learn to associate with a word with a feeling. So I'm going to say it's a dodo. So a child gets a dodo for that soothing feeling. So dodo is the first thing that's imprinted in our young impressionable minds. That we can associate sounds with feelings. So it is. You know what I mean? That's basic stuff. So that's the level of importance I see the dodo in, and so much more than that as well.
You see it as a kind of like primordial verbalization or word.
No, well, it's like Rockabye Baby. If you think about it, it's not a sort of soothing interesting thing to be singing to a child. And the melody is, but the lyrics aren't. Rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come baby, cradle and all. Well, if you look upon that as in a different sense, as telling you not a primordial, but a basic story. It's telling you a historic occurrence and in a different form, and it's getting it into you at a very young age as well. It's same with the dodo. It represents something real and something historic. Again, with the flat Earth, we find that so much of our history has been fabricated. My question is, how much exactly? And with the dodo,
I reject history. I was talking to Anthony about that. Yeah, I mean, I how much of it? Probably, you may as well assume all of it. Pretty much.
You can't say any of it's real because none of it's really new direct experience, is it? I mean, yeah, you can say, well, it's written down. It's
right.
It's written down in scripture, what have you. But how can you really verify it 100%?
You get into this issue of representation as well, right? Like, what would be an accurate representation of history, even, right? Like, this is what they call it's not history. It's like historiography or there's some kind of historiography, I guess, or some. No, I can't think of the word, but it's the study of the methods of historians, not the study of history, right? And then kind of with a kind of critical study of the methodology of history, and sort of, there's what they call like the great man theory of history, which is the sort of naive version of history, where it's just a series of kings and wars, grand scale political events, and then it kind of tried to get more subtle, where it focuses on the average person, if such a thing ever existed, kind of approach to history, and just the kind of how do you decide what's important and what should be represented in a history, and what were truly the decisive events of history that sent things going in one way or another. But then when you throw hoaxes and lies into that mixture, it's just like you can quickly see that it's a very anarchic topic, really. Like that it doesn't have the sort of solid foundations that you kind of naively assume when you're younger or before you've had reason to question it.
This is where the Bible comes into things for me anyway. Once we enter into flat Earth, we're looking for something solid to cling to. Then you have these people pushing the Bible literalism at you, telling you, look, they've told you about flat Earth in the Bible all the way well, so therefore, follow our God in the Bible. I think that's the next layer of the deception.
Yeah.
And with the dodo, it's interesting that the dodo, I've spoken a lot more about these interesting connections. It's interesting the dodo was said to be discovered in 1598. I say the dodo represents an actual landmass interrelationship between the continents after the inundation. So the face of the earth would have changed. So again, obviously lots more things are involved in that. But when you're talking about such a period, and Anthony was mentioning time earlier on as well, and what Foucault word was talking about. Well, I think time came into existence in a real sense following this inundation. This inundation goes back to Rockabye Baby, on the treetop for me. And again, this is supported in a lot of places. But my ultimate point was, what if this is only going back a few short 100 years, 400 odd years is where I put it at. And everything before that was absolutely different and belonged to a completely different time, So then this is where the Bible comes in as a sort of a secondary layer of deception, whereas in fact the Bible very likely was written in the same time as Shakespeare and by the same hidden hand. I connect the hidden hand with the dodo. And again,
like the Jesuits and the secret societies,
right?
Freemasons and the Jesuits, the royal family.
Well, they all know, you see, this is what I'm saying about Masons. They all know the earth is flat and stationary. Any Mason worth his salt will know the earth is flat and stationary. Early doors, I should think. Because let me put it this way, if I'm a Freemason and you're a Freemason and we develop a good friendship, but you're a few years ahead of me, by the time it comes to me finding out about the flat earth, I'll say, what the fuck, man? You told me about everything else. You told me about your wife cheating on you. You told me about all your secrets. We were very, and you wouldn't tell me about something so basic. So I don't think it would work like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's a big open secret.
Well, I think that's why they have their degrees system, right? So then that you kind of go into it expecting that you're going to get more information as you ascend these degrees. So then you're not going to be pissed off about it, right? Because you're like, oh, well, I achieved this degree, so I expect new information that was not in that, and then that it kind of organizes the process of waking up for people, right? And within those, not as developed.
I could see it working that way as well, but because flat Earth is only the beginning, you see. see. I don't see that would be such a long time gap, but especially now anyway. So I think everyone, all Freemasons now must know it. I mean, look,
I think there's also this reasoning behind this where they may not understand the what's beyond the flat Earth and what's beyond what's in the larger scale. Maybe they don't understand that, but by presenting a coherent narrative that seems to explain away everything, they manage to take control of of authority in general, right? As by infiltrating these social like education systems and other and religious institutions and things like that. Then through that you can institute or you can set yourself up as a complete authority on any kind of deeply important subjects to any living being, any sentient life forms on this planet.
But again, it opens flat Earth does open up so many other questions. After a while, the Earth being flat and stationary, at least on a local level, and you adhere passively to something like the honeycomb Earth model, where you have many different patches, Earth-sized patches, each locally appearing flat and level, but obviously maybe taking a different.
Wouldn't gravity have to come back into that though?
Well, it's not gravity. Gravity is they reversed everything, Jamie. So gravity, they call it pulling force, where we're actually under a pushing force, which is the electromagnetic field from the broken barrier. The whole system has been disturbed severely. And just to say, you talked about time earlier on. I think time came in. Ask yourself what time is. I think in a real sense, time came into existence when the sun itself came into existence. And I don't think the sun was always in existence. Again, that's only a very late addition to our reality, in my own view anyway. But again,
it's kind of speculative, isn't it? Like, I mean, I'm not sure that there's enough information to make.
No, and I'm just skimming over it as well. But again, it's the idea being that, like with flat Earth, we're after entering a completely different realm, and everything becomes possible. And you can't apply the same standards of proof. You really can't. There's no way to prove so much. Like, we can't even say state categorically what the moon is, what the sun, what boundary conditions are. This is how feeble we are in a big sense.
But there's no sense in denying that. If there's things that we are unable to know, the last thing we should do is just jump to conclusions about those things. Because towards understanding, we won't know how much of this we can understand unless we kind of approach it that we can understand the whole thing if we try hard enough. We might fail. Well, I'm just saying that it's more about making that the goal so that we'll get as close to it as possible, rather than assuming that we would ever reach it. It's just that there's no point in setting a ceiling on how much of this we can understand before we've explored all the possibilities.
Exactly. And it's only when something resonates, that term is used a lot, with you, or you sort of you pick up the baton and you run with it, and you hope to progress in any sense. That much is clear. I mean, honestly, everything is fantastical at this point. When taken seriously into my reckon is the idea of giant trees, which has many, especially flat earthers, to throw their eyes up into the air, but that doesn't mean it's not a reality or it's not a known. See, here's the thing. I think everything is known about our history, absolutely everything. And what we're coming to now is a time of awakening, and this all goes back to ultimately to ourselves. So we have to awaken to ourselves, and this is all easy shit to us. Whatever is going on, whether we've forgotten purpose, whether it's all part and parcel of assimilation, there's a grander puzzle there to be solved. And entertain every possibility as an individual, I should think, if you're interested in the grander puzzle, and run with things, run with ideas. Again, the standards of proof are gone out the window, so we're sort of beyond that at this stage.
Well, I mean, or that the conversation about the standards of proof needs to be an open one, I would say, more than that there isn't any. That's something that because I think that it's like what these shills try to push on us is that there's already an established authority over this subject, and the question of the standards of evidence is not an open question. That they try to foist that context onto every conversation.
They have everything defined, you see, but the only problem is there when you start to ask even the most basic questions regarding their model, they collapse completely. They don't know what the moon is. Ask them what the moon is. Well, we don't know what ask them to show you curvature, just in a different sense, or water behaving, and it's another. We all know water, the way water behaves. They can't do it. It's the same with every aspect of their model.
But what they have is the priesthood of scientism always backing them, right? Like they can refer to science journals and renowned magazines and Nobel Prize winning physicists, right? Like that's what I'm saying is that they're trying to. So what the real thing that we need to do is to just not so much throw standards of evidence out the window as to make that there's no arguments from authority, and that the question of the validity of evidence has to always remain an open question.
Right. That's absolutely true. But no matter what model or theory trying to explain everything is put forward, it has to make some sort of coherent sense in its own right. Even though we are in the realm of we don't. Again, everything is just, we can't define anything, or not that we can't define anything. I think I can define in my own terms things, but they certainly won't be according to the definitions accepted. I don't know, even amongst new definitions, if you know what I mean there. You have to try out the old definitions, but that leaves a big gaping hole then. So we have to start sort of along that path. And this is where I say it's an individual's path, absolutely. And these discussions are great in many senses, I should think, but especially because there's an easy flow of ideas. Everyone is at their own, in their own place, I guess, at their own point in terms of flat Earth realization. Because even when you realize that the Earth is flat and stationary, again, you come to realize that this is just a small question. The implications of that are enormous. We have thrown out everything, so there's a big gaping hole, and we need answers. So,
I'm still in that initial shock phase of just having discovered it kind of recent. So
the dodo might be a while off for you then.
Well, no, I mean, it's inspired just like an incredible rush of, questioning and discovery for me. Like, it seems like every single day I have, like every day is a complete adventure for me. I guess that probably a lot of people when they are early on in it have that feeling, right? But it's really interesting because I think it's bringing out the best in me in a lot of ways.
Excellent, man. That's great to hear. And I think Flat Earth will bring out the best in all of us, Let me just say that, let me not to cut to the chase anyway, but for me anyway, all arrows point to the north center. So we had that's where conditions, paradise conditions are still in existence. And I think this is the X marks the spot. This is the ultimate purpose and prize of all of this, beyond Flat Earth realization. Again, many layers beneath that, it all points to there. And again, we're dealing with just fantastical reality. Everything we have been fed up to now via the scientific, structures is nonsense. It's a complete and utter fabrication. So everything has to be thrown out in the sense that, we have to start again with a clean slate. But we can take certainly some of the information. One of the rules that I found.
Yeah, you got to not throw out the baby with the bathtub.
Yeah, the 180-degree rule, Jamie.
I mean, with the bath water, actually, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, throughout So again, the 180-degree rule, especially with observable things like the path of the sun relative to the Earth, or vice versa, as they've presented it. So we can use certain points of information. But again, it just depends on where you're at in terms of your mindset. But I think, certainly all roads do point to the north center, and I think this is what we're getting back to ultimately. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Well, thank you for your contribution. It's
okay, cool. I'm going to say good night as well, and thanks to everyone. Nice talking, Anthony, Jamie, Num Num, and Dodo. Just sweet Dodo, and we'll talk again. Okay.
No worries.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cheers, Nummy. It went better than I expected it to. Actually, the fact that all the trolls were literally lurking with such intent before, it's tantamount to the problems that they've now got, which resulted from me and you. Well, really from you noticing it, but from me and you getting together and just putting things together and seeing if we could make something interesting.
Yeah,
and it did.
Collaboration for sure. Thank you. High five, man. I think we nailed it.
I think so too. I think it's put it beyond doubt, and I don't think that there's any way back for Soundly, because he is. I mean, he's going to have his own little corner of friends, but anybody that was neutral realizes that there is problems with this thing, and it's really bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, the trolls are trolls, right? They're not going to stop being trolls because they got their asses whooped. Like, they have no other. They're either going to disappear or be trolls. So that's that. But I think that we know, we and anyone with a scent of intellectual honesty knows the truth about this case.
Yep, it's all good.
Even that one guy who wasn't a flat earther was like, he had to admit that it was not looking good for Soundly there.
Yeah, Ireland.
That guy wasn't going to cut us any breaks, I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you took him the wrong way initially when you first come on as well. I don't think he was having a go at you, and I think you took it as that he was having a go at you. And I don't think he was. I think he was just acknowledging that he was a doubter of. Initially he was a doubter of the points that were made, and then he went on to look at it and he began to realize, hey, shit, there is problems here. Right. And then he came on and said, no, you are right. There are problems there. There's more problems now. He noticed that the legs were in the wrong position. I don't know how he noticed that, and I don't know how we didn't notice it, but he did notice it and pointed it out.
Yeah, so because they actually kind of added something to the argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's probably 100 other things that haven't been noticed yet as well, right? But it's just who wants to. Thankfully, we don't need to spend more of our lives on this anymore because we only need to really find one.
Yeah. It's all good.
But, it was cool that he contributed that. That was interesting, and it's just yet another nail in the coffin.
Yep. And I noticed that Soundly's live right now, and in there he's got all of the dicks. Literally, I'll read the participants list. He's got these are the people that are dicks. I don't know about 3D Crazy, but Al K, Captain Bullshit, Cigar Face, Gem in Space, Nathan Grant, Kara, Soundly himself.
They're all in there giving each other hand jobs. That's fine.
Miles Davis, Nathan Grant.
Yeah, they're just doing their ridiculous bullshit thing and huddling together to try to plot their next weaselly step.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how they react because they're going to do the same thing, the same MO. What they'll do is they'll either they'll misrepresent what was said and then claim a victory, or they'll change the evidence and claim a victory.
Yeah, they've already done the first of those things, which is like to move the goalposts and then claim a victory.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It just shows how dishonest they actually are. I mean, you and I have got no reason to. I mean, you and I hadn't met each other before a week ago,
right?
And we've just collaborated with a song and come up with a really good fucking a number one hit, and it really works. It really does, and I love it. I love the fact that they're swerving.
Yeah, it's really cool how the internet can enable this kind of thing because I think, like I was saying earlier, when I was asked about how I came into contact with you, it was just kind of a really, really good timing about where I was at and where you were at.
Yeah.
And when I just typed in flat Earth as a topic one day, and then your chat came up, so I checked that out. So I was familiar with the Mick West name, and then I kind of got involved in it in my mind, and so it's just cool how the internet can we can just jump into this collaboration without really having any kind of rapport beforehand and be successful with that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just laughing at how this is all played out because really the fact that Ireland says that he's never seen anybody present their own evidence against them the way that we managed to do it tonight is testament to the fact that, well, really it shows how bad Soundly actually is. And now that people know that there are problems with his work, they're all going to be looking for it because they realize that there are problems with it. Because I knew from the minute I looked at it, something was wrong with it. I had no idea what, and I wasn't really that interested in dealing with it. But for some reason, it gained so much momentum that all the ballers started jumping on it, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then realized nobody had done it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to spend a little bit of time on this," and then realized that he was fucking lying. And it was only when you got in touch with me and said, "Hey, look, here's some evidence. What do you think?" And I'll be honest, the first time I saw your evidence, I was a bit 50-50 because I thought, I don't even know whether this is credible or not. I don't know anything about photo fakery. But I do know when someone's lying, and I knew that he was lying. I just didn't know how. So it ended up being a fantastic critique. So in the end, Soundly, you have been debunked, my friend. Discredited, debunked, and basically, I'm not expecting your name to be sticking around in Flat Earth. I think you better go to Chemtrails or something. Start again.
Yeah, it's really worth all the time put into it when you can come out with such a decisive victory as well. Like it was worth every, because you end up spending more time than you intended ended, right? Like once you get involved in a public debate or whatever. But I mean, I feel this has been a great way to spend the time, in my opinion, at this point.
Yep.
Like I'm very glad that I've invested in this, given how it's turned out.
And I'm glad that I didn't ignore your comment, because I mean, I did think that you could be like a setup, like a stooge.
Yeah, I kind of appreciated where you're coming from. I mean, I could tell you were a little bit, you weren't like, yeah, let's do it, man. You were like, okay, well, we'll see what you got. So, that actually made me feel better about it, because I was like, okay, this guy's not, like, I don't expect you to just believe me either, right? I had to kind of earn your respect.
And it was true what I said about last night's dress rehearsal. We did go through it point by point, and some of the that one particular point that you remember, which was the edge of the wall, that didn't exist, and we worked out that it actually did exist. And I'm so glad we didn't say that, because that would have been a real big claim to make, that he claimed that he made something that was literally didn't even exist and nobody spotted it. Well, I'm glad we didn't make that claim, because if we had done, we'd have looked stupid.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly. We got to sort of team up and crowdsource the argument, right? Like have a think tank.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing last night. Really, that's a think tank on the debate today. And like that's you can do more with more if you have a bunch of people. I think that what was really great about our collaboration between you and I in this is that we both were really became intimately familiar with every little detail of this argument. So when we were honing in, and that's really, it was the commitment to understanding every little detail of all of these things that made it possible for us to collaborate in that way. And that's how they work, right? So you're going to have an advantage by crowdsourcing these kind of subjects, and you need it, because that's what you're up against as well. You're up against a team of people who make different kinds of contributions to their side.
What should happen now really is that other flat earthers should go over his work and put more anomalies and see if they can prove any other elements that are wrong. Because I do believe he's done it on a wireframe. I do believe he's used computerized stuff, passed it off as real. But he's based it on real footage though. So I don't get how he's done it. But I know he has done something, because there are mistakes in it that we've demonstrated, and indeed Ireland has managed to show that we've missed one of the really big ones, because we were too busy looking in at the zoomed in on the facts that we thought, we were too zoomed in, and really if we looked at the bigger picture, we'd have been able to realize and establish that it wasn't actually the way he showed it, and we just missed it. But I think we did enough to be able
scratching the surface, really. I mean, I expect we only found a small fraction of absolute proofs that stuff's fake, but that's the nature of it, right? Like, it's hard to you have to actually go, each time that you watch it, you're going to be able to be aware of some details at the cost of others, right? And you have to kind of be processing it. You have to be internalizing it. So that's why, like I said, it would be great if more people wanted to go in and kind of finish that off even worse. Now that we've kind of bashed a hole in it, it's a bit easier, because you can be more confident that there are things to find. Like, it's not a wild goose chase.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll get tired because it's like 2 a.m. here.
I'm going to be finishing this up shortly.
Yeah. Maybe we should just wrap it up now. I'm kind of looking to get off here as well. But hey, man, great working with you today.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, it was a productive session on it, And
so and get the word out to anyone that you think is important to this conversation surrounding the flat Earth, because I do think this is that the word needs to get out about Soundly and his gaggle of liars.
I think the word will be out already. It's just like I can't remember who said it, but who is the jury? Well, we are the jury.
Yeah,
we decide. And really, I hope Soundly is discredited at every corner he turns, because nobody should be listening to anything he says, and we should call him out and say, no, you've been shown to be a dishonest prick. Every time he speaks in anything to do with flat Earth, just say, no, you're a dishonest prick. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why should we give any of our energy to these people at this point, right?
Yeah, just outed now, basically.
Yeah, they're not worthy of your energy. They're just liars. They're just total, lying scum. Really, they're just scum fucks.
Well,
let's just enjoy.
Let's get on that note, shall we?
Yeah, let's just enjoy the victory, because I'm sure there's going to be new videos where they fix the mistakes of the CGI, and
you should go find another floor. Do the victory lap.
Yeah, go and find something else to rub in his face.
I think I'm going to take a little break from watching Soundly's video. I think I've had as much as a person could take in a week. So, but yeah, we'll be back to fight another day, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right, boys, let's wrap it up and let's get gone. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah, chat again soon.
See you, Nummy.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Should be back. I might do another one tomorrow. But yeah, cheers, everybody. Make sure to like as if you haven't already. And yeah, till next time. Bye.